When my
name's
wife and I
Alex.
arrived at the Halloween
I
party,
hail from a
it was
fractured
already
family,
lively.
raised by a
It was hard
controlling
not to
mother
notice
and
her
her
fit
meddling
physique
sisters.
showcased by her
Megan,
tight, jet black
the eldest,
Catwoman outfit.
was 13 years my
Despite being
senior,
a mom of
with
two,
Anna 10 years
Alicia
older.
looks stunning.
I suppose
Sometimes
I was an
forget just
unplanned
how
child,
attractive she
blamed
is.
for my parents' separation.
I, on the other hand,
Dad
was
left
dressed
in
as a pirate.
1977 when I
Hot?
was 5
Not
and
really.
never returned.
But not
Throughout
too
my
shabby
childhood,
either.
I faced bullying at
Alicia
school
gave me a
and at
quick
home.
kiss on the cheek
All
before
I
mingling with
craved
other
was my
guests.
mother's love,
While I
a
made my
simple
way to the
gesture
drinks
of
area where
acceptance
my
that
friends
never
were
came.
engaged in a heated
Despite
debate.
the challenges,
As I
I
approached,
excelled
I realized
academically,
they were arguing over
dedicating
the
12
age-old
years
question:
to my studies.
Hulk
Time
or
passed,
Superman?
And in
It struck me as a bit
1993,
silly
I found
considering the
myself at
intellect in the
Kingston
room.
University in South
Superman
London,
was obviously
grateful
the
to
superior
escape my
choice.
home life.
Nevertheless,
It was there I met
decided
Holly,
to join
her
the
image
debate,
still clear in
drawing
my
from my
mind.
childhood spent
She
immersed in
exuded
Marvel
beauty
and
and
DC
confidence,
Comics.
while I
Confident
remained
in my
shy and
expertise, I
introverted.
hope to settle the matter
Holly was
once
in her
and for
final
all.
year of a creative
However, my
writing degree,
arguments only fueled the
contrasting
debate
with my
further,
pursuit of a
turning the
master's in
conversation
mechanical
into
engineering
chaos.
and design.
But that's what happens when
As
you
I
mix
mentioned,
beer with
I
grown
was
men.
too timid to approach
Eventually,
her,
we
while
all
she
agreed to
attracted
table the
attention from
discussion,
men
opting
effortlessly.
instead to enjoy the abundance
Standing
of
at
beer
5
and
feet
fun.
5 inches with
Knowing
brown
Alicia
hair
wouldn't
and
want to leave
captivating
anytime
brown
soon,
eyes,
I
she
planned to stay
possessed a
relatively
beauty that
sober.
seemed beyond my
She was
reach.
already having a great
The men
time
who
chatting with
pursued
her
her
best
were
friend
outgoing
Susie,
and
who was
popular.
also dressed as
To my
Catwoman.
surprise, one
Alicia
of
and
Holly's
Susie
friends
had been
struck up a
inseparable since
conversation
middle
with me at a
school,
party,
despite being
leading to
almost
Holly's
polar
eventual
opposites in
inclusion.
personality. They
Despite
shared
my
the same
limited
upbringing,
experience with
often
women,
jokingly
my
speculating
humility
about being
and
switched to
bashfulness
birth.
seemed to
However, they
attract her.
both detested that
Summoning
joke.
the courage,
Susie
I
was
asked
married
her
to
out,
Dominic,
and we
who
began
was
dating.
quite different from me in
I'm not
many
ashamed
ways.
to admit she took my
While I
pureness,
managed
but
restaurants
after
for a
about
living,
6
Dominic
months,
worked with his
rumors
hands.
surfaced of her
Though I
involvement
wasn't
with other
as
men.
active in the gym as I
Unable
used to
to
be, I
substantiate
still
the
maintained a
claims,
decent
I
level of
hesitated to
fitness from my
confront her.
boxing days in college.
Holly was a spoiled child,
Dominic, however,
indulged by
works
her
at a
parents
nearby
and her sister
factory.
Caroline,
While I'm
which
unsure of
strained
his
our
specific
relationship.
role, I know
I
it
endured
entails
her
heavy
entitled
lifting
behavior,
for 8 to 10
her
hours
penchant
daily.
for creating public scenes,
He's practically a gym
causing
rat,
me
resulting in a
embarrassment.
muscular physique.
Despite my
Unlike
friends
my
urging
neat
to
short
end the
hair,
relationship,
his is long and
I
tied back
found
in a
myself
ponytail,
in love,
complemented
a feeling
by a
I had
beard
never
giving him an
experienced
Aztec
before.
warrior vibe. If
After
Dominic resembles
graduation,
Drogo from
we
Game
both
of
found
Thrones,
jobs
I'm
and
more
a
akin to
flat
Don
outside
Draper from Mad
Southampton, New
Men.
Hampshire.
Though I never
Her
truly
family
warmed up
ties
to
drew
him,
us there,
I didn't dislike
as
him
I had
either.
long severed
Our
connections
connection
with
was
mine.
merely through Susie,
We
my
married a
wife's
year
best
later,
friend, so our
welcoming
interactions
Sophie
were
into the world
sporadic
the
and never
following year,
extended beyond
and
that.
Ava a couple
And
of
tonight
years
was
after.
no exception.
Holly relished
Sporting a
motherhood,
Tarzan costume
and
and
everything
chilly
seemed
weather struck
perfect
me as
between us.
insensitive.
Over time,
I couldn't help
I
but
advanced
perceive
in
it
my
as an
career,
idiot
eventually
move,
joining
reflecting
Walker
his
Engineering
tendency
10
for
years
such
ago.
actions,
The
despite
increased
his
salary
flirtatious
and bonuses
behavior, which
helped
often
us save
bordered
for
on
a better house.
inappropriate. The women,
But like many
including
during the
Alicia,
economic
seemed to
downturn of
find it more
2008,
amusing than offensive.
it was a tough year.
This bothered me,
Many lost
especially
their jobs,
considering Susie's
and winning
apparent
contracts
indifference.
became harder,
While she
forcing us
occasionally
to work
playfully
longer
chided
hours
him,
without
there
extra
was no
pay.
real reprimand,
It was
suggesting
during
she
this
took
time,
pride in
with
his
both
ability
girls
to
in school
attract
full
attention.
time, that I discovered
As the night
Holly's affair
progressed
with a
and
man
Dominic's
from our old
inhibitions
university.
lowered with drinks
Lost
consumption,
in work,
his
I remained
flirtatiousness
unaware
became
until
more
it was too
pronounced,
late.
regardless
Initially
of the
unsure
women's
of the
marital
identity
status.
of her lover,
Though some
Sophie
husbands may have
suspected a
been angered
classmate
by
who
his
had moved
advances,
nearby.
no one reacted,
Confronting
perhaps
Holly
out of
proved
fear,
futile, as she
intoxication,
laughed
or a
off my
desire to
concerns,
avoid confrontation.
though I sensed her deception.
However, I remained vigilant,
Nonetheless,
ready to
my
intervene
stable job
if he
and
crossed the
income
line
put me
with
in a
Alicia.
good position to buy a nice
Sensing
house.
my unease, she
Holly
approached me.
constantly pushed
"Are you
me to buy a
enjoying
house that
yourself,
reflected
Greg?"
our status,
She shouted over the music.
whatever that meant.
I nodded and took a sip
Despite
of beer,
my
observing
reservations,
her
I
move to the
agreed,
music.
and we purchased
Standing
a
beside
lovely
me, her
detached
attention
5-bedroom
shifted to
house in
Tarzan,
Southampton.
silently appraising
It
his
was a
physique.
buyer's market, so we
Unintentionally,
snagged
I felt
a good
a surge
deal,
of jealousy
despite
as I
the
sensed
slightly
her
high
desire.
mortgage.
It
One thing
bothered
I
me.
did, which was unusual
Who dresses
for me,
as Tarzan
was
in
to
this
open
weather?
a new savings
Alicia
account
snapped
in my
back to
name
reality
only.
and faced me.
I only deposited my
You know
share
Dominic,
of the bonus
sweetheart,
into it,
always craving
and
the
since
spotlight.
I handled all
I
finances
chuckled,
and banking
but
as
the
the
taste
sole
of my beer
breadwinner,
suddenly
I
soured.
doubt Holly even knew
Alicia
about
noticed
it,
my shift
even
in
if I
mood.
waved the receipts
"Are you
in front
jealous?" she
of her.
asked.
Looking back,
Jealous
this turned
of
out
him?
to be one of the
I don't need to
smartest
strip
things I
down to
could
get
have done.
attention. I
I needed
replied,
some
my tone
security
defensive.
because I wasn't sure
Alicia
if Holly
laughed it
planned
off.
to leave me if her old
Of course
flame
not,
returned.
honey,"
returned.
she said,
After
turning
that
her
incident,
attention back to him.
things seemed to return to
As the
normal.
night progressed
and
and
my
more
daughters
drinks flowed,
remained my top
inhibitions
priority.
waned. Dominic
I
and his
supported their
loincloth became
education
less
and
of a
spent
focus
ample
as I
time with them
mingled
on
with my
weekends,
genuine friends.
taking them
It
to
wasn't until
various
later that I
activities like
noticed
dance
Dominic
classes,
making advances
concerts,
towards Alicia.
and the zoo.
Searching for her,
Holly
I
always
found them in
seemed
the
too
kitchen,
preoccupied with
engaged
her
in
outings with
carnal
her indulgent
conversation.
and idle
My
friends.
jealousy flared,
I
and
seldom
Dominic retreated
socialized
upon
with
seeing
other
me.
husbands,
Alicia,
but we all
sensing
seemed
the
to be
tension,
somewhat
greeted
controlled
me
by
with
our
forced
wives
warmth.
to varying degrees.
"Hi, darling. I was just
My
looking
friends
for
would
you,"
tease me with
she
the
hurriedly
song
said.
"Under My
"In
Thumb"
the same place
by the
all
Rolling
night, Alicia.
Stones.
What were you
Whenever
two
I had
talking
to
about?
cancel plans
You
for
looked
what
awfully
Holly
cozy," I
wanted.
asked,
Even at
my
work,
tone
my
accusatory.
colleagues would make comments
tried to
about my
dismiss it.
marital situation.
"Nothing happened,
especially
Greg.
Holly's dominance over
Dominic
me.
was just being his
It
usual
wasn't
flirty
until a few
self,"
months ago
she
that
assured.
everything
But
came
my
to a
unease
head.
lingered.
Ava had just left for
"I'm
university,
just a bit tipsy, honey.
leaving Holly and
Don't
me
worry,"
alone for
she
the
said,
first time in
patting my
18
cheek
years.
before leaving.
Both our daughters were attending
For
our
the rest
old
of the
alma
evening,
mater.
Dominic and
As I
Alicia
helped
kept their
Ava
distance,
settle into her new
exchanging only
apartment with her
secretive
sister,
glances.
She
It was
turned
enough
to me and
unsettle
questioned
me. I
why
needed
I
a
was
break.
still with their mother.
The beer was kicking in,
I was
so I
taken
needed a
aback,
bathroom break.
as Ava had always
Afterward,
been
I
quiet,
bumped into
like her
Dominic
old
as if
man.
he'd trailed me.
I
Got
heard
a
she's
problem,
fooling
Greg?
around with Henry
He
Walker
slurred,
at your
his
company,
gaze menacing.
Ava said,
What?
tears
I felt
welling
the
up in her
surrealness
eyes.
of the moment.
It was
he
news
accused
to
me
me,
of looking
but I
down on him
wasn't
due to my
shocked.
wealth,
Over the
inciting
years,
superiority.
I could have investigated her
me.
affairs, but
You're drunk,
refrained,
Dominic. Go home
fearing
before you
it would
say
break
something
up
you'll
the
regret.
family
I
and
said,
cause my daughters
moving
to
past
resent
him.
me,
Regret
just as
what?
my sisters
Like
did my dad.
sleeping with your pretty
I
wife?
tolerated her
He jabbed,
infidelity
grabbing
because
my
I couldn't
attention.
bear to lose
I
what we
confronted
had
him,
created,
warning him to keep my
despite
wife
still
out of his
loving her.
twisted thoughts.
This
He
revelation
smirked,
had several
dismissing them
effects
as
on me.
memories, not
Firstly,
fantasies.
it
His
made me
words struck me
realize
like
the depth
thunder,
of my daughter's
ending the
animosity
conversation.
towards their mother,
You're full of
far
it,
greater
I
than I had
retorted,
imagined.
less certain now.
Secondly,
Then he made
it brought
crude
up
remarks
old
about
feelings
Alicia
from my
crossing a
upbringing
line.
and how they
Enraged,
influenced
I
my
struck
weaknesses.
him, the impact echoing
Finally,
through the drywall.
I realized I was
Descending
the
the stairs,
subject
I
of
found
gossip
Alicia,
and ridicule
her
at work,
tear-filled eyes
particularly
confirming
from
Dominic's
Henry
claims.
Walker,
Panic
who
ensued as
coincidentally
Dominic
was the
lay
nephew
unconscious.
of the owner
Amid
and the
the
man
chaos,
betraying me.
Alicia approached
I
me,
felt utterly
her question
lost,
frozen on her
unable
lips.
to
A
continue
glance told her
enduring
I
this
knew.
situation,
Her
especially
teary
now
eyes
that my
confirmed
youngest
Dominic's
daughter was
words.
aware of the mockery
Call
from Holly.
emergency.
I
Dominic's
knew I had to
unconscious,
confront
she
her.
cried.
My heart
Screams
raced as I
echoed
sat
from
at the
above,
kitchen table,
but I stood
waiting
there,
for Holly's
looking
return.
at Alicia, searching
When
for
she
the woman I
finally
married.
appeared, I found
Honestly, I didn't
myself
care about
unable to
Dominic's
speak
fate at that
once
moment.
again.
What
She
the hell
merely
did you
looked
do
at
to
me
my
with what
husband?
seemed like
A
apathy
scream
and
pierced the
contempt
air behind me,
as she
followed by
unpacked her
fists
bags.
punching my back.
Eventually,
I dodged
I
Susie's
gathered the
swings and
courage
someone
to
pulled
speak.
her away.
I questioned
Greg,
Holly about
what
the
the
nature
hell?
of her
Richard, the
relationship with
party
someone
host,
else.
questioned, noticing
She replied
the
that
chaos.
she wouldn't classify
Ignoring
it
him,
as an
I
affair,
faced Susie.
insisting it wasn't that
Did you
significant.
know your husband slept with Alicia?
I felt a mixture of
Her
shock and
silence
disgust,
spoke volumes,
waiting for her to
confirming her
explain how
knowledge
her
without
actions
anger
could be
or denial.
justified.
She just
She
looked at me
expressed her
as if she
admiration
knew
for me
everything.
as a provider and a
Alicia's
friend,
hand rested
but
gently
admitted
on my
there were
shoulder.
certain needs I couldn't
Greg,
fulfill.
we need to talk.
I was dismayed
but
by
not
her
here,
straightforward
she said
admission
softly.
and asked if it meant
I turned
she was
to her,
cheating on me.
unleashing a surge of
Holly
rage
clarified
unlike
that
any
it
I'd
was
felt
only
before.
her body involved,
It was so
not her
intense,
heart or
tears
mind.
welled in my eyes.
Stunned by
a
her
release of
audacious
emotion
admission,
preventing me from
I
exploding.
was left speechless.
He woke up.
She
A shout
nonchalantly
echoed
mentioned
from above.
exploring relationships
Susie
with
hurried
younger
back
men.
upstairs. My
Startled,
anger began to
I
fade
raised
as the
my
gravity
voice,
of the situation
questioning
sank
her
in.
actions.
What if I had
Holly
eliminated
cautioned me not
Dominic
to
in a
shout,
moment of anger?
and despite
I could
admitting
face
to being
lifelong
involved with
consequences,
two other men,
even
she
assault
expected
charges,
my silence.
jeopardizing my
She
hard-earned
threatened me
career
with the
over a
choice of
drunken
accepting her
mistake.
terms
The
or
same
risking
drunken
her
mistake who
departure
slept
to
with
be
my
with
wife.
someone else.
Greg,
I
come on,
remained
honey.
silent,
Let's get out of here.
hoping
we
she
need
would
to talk.
notice the pain on
Alicia
my
pleaded.
face.
Us?
Attempting
no,
to
Alicia.
justify her
You're going
actions,
home with your
she
boyfriend and
claimed
his
that
wife.
such
I'm
behavior
leaving,
was common
I
among her
retorted,
friends
heading for the
and could
front
even
door.
improve a marriage.
Alicia grabbed me
I
in
was
desperation.
appalled by her attempt
Greg,
to
you
use her
can't
friend's
leave me here.
actions as a
We're going home
justification,
and we're going to talk.
considering
Do you hear
it
me?
contemptible
You're not
and
leaving me
self-centered.
behind, she cried.
Challenging her
face
with the
streaked with
idea of
tears,
having another
a
woman,
mix of fury
she
and
laughed off the
sadness.
suggestion,
It made no
mocking
sense what
my
she was
ability
angry
to
about.
connect with other women.
I can't handle this,
She
Alicia.
confidently
Don't go
stated
home.
that our
I could
relationship
end up in
would
jail for
continue on
assault.
her terms,
I don't want to add
warning me
domestic
not to
violence
ruin
to
a
the
good
mix.
thing. In
Damn
reality,
you, Greg.
she was
Damn
right.
you. Want to
Throughout
punch me?
our
Go
22-year
ahead,
relationship,
coward.
I had
At least
displayed
you'll acknowledge
unwavering
me.
loyalty
Damn.
and compliance
It'd be the
with her
first
wishes.
time you've touched me
Now,
in weeks.
everyone knew I was
She
being
jabbed her
betrayed,
finger into my chest
tarnishing
as
my
her anger
reputation among
escalated,
friends
leaving
and
me
colleagues.
puzzled by its
The
intensity.
next morning, I
She was
entered
the one
my
in the
office
wrong,
and was
yet
met
she was
by
furious.
Henry Walker,
Is that
the
it?
man involved
Because
with
I don't
my
cuddle
wife.
you every night?
With a smirk,
Is that your
he
lame
inquired about
excuse?
Alex's well-being.
Is that why you
his
cheated
smug
with this
expression
idiot?
fueling my
She didn't
frustration.
respond verbally.
I chose to
Her
remain
defiant
silent.
glare spoke
Near
volumes.
the coffee machine, I heard
Just so
laughter
you know,
from
Alicia,
some men.
I earn a living.
Despite their amusement,
I don't have a husband to
I
pay my
continued past
bills.
them, feeling
Maybe if you had a
exposed.
job,
Even
you'd understand
Olivia,
what it's like
the
to
boss's
come home
secretary,
exhausted.
seemed to find my
Suddenly,
situation
I remembered
amusing.
our audience, hanging
Seated
on
at
every
my
word
desk,
like they were
I
watching a
pondered
movie.
the rough start to
Alicia
my
was
day,
mocking me.
feeling
Poor
ridiculed
Greg,
both at work
too tired
and
for his
home.
wife, yet finds time for
Despite
adult
my
movies.
efforts to focus,
Maybe if you paid
my
attention
anger
to your
lingered.
wife instead of
I
silicone
resolved
Barbie
to delve
dolls
into
online,
my father's background,
she wouldn't confide in
knowing
her
only
friend
his
about feeling
birthplace and
neglected.
departure at
Alicia's
38 in
voice crescendoed,
1977.
fists clenched,
Searching
tears
family
streaming down
history
her
sites
face,
for
a mix of
Cambridgeshire,
pain and
I
fury.
found several
It was
potential
the
matches.
ultimate humiliation.
Anticipating
I
his
had no witty
passing before
retort
my
or comeback.
university years, I narrowed it
Speechless,
down
I faced
to
the
3
judgmental
options
stares of our
and
friends and
posted
neighbors.
inquiries on
Shock,
genealogy
disgust,
websites.
sympathy, and perhaps
Lost
a hint of
in thought,
entertainment.
my boss, Jack,
I had to
summoned
leave.
me to his office.
Alicia's cries
Jack,
of despair
a
echoed
successful
until
but
I started the car and
morally
drove off
questionable man,
into
wanted
the
to talk.
night. This
Despite
story, based
considering
on real
leaving due
events,
to
is
his
not from
behavior,
Greg's
his
perspective, but
persuasion
mine.
and high pay
Richard,
kept me.
the party host.
I discovered his
Yes,
affair with his
I have a hole
secretary
the size
Olivia,
of Dominic's next to my
unbeknownst to his
daughter's
third
room.
wife.
Writing
He
from
plainly
Greg's
mentioned
viewpoint
hearing
allowed
rumors
readers
about
to
my
feel
wife's
his anger
infidelity.
and humiliation.
I retorted,
My wife and I
mentioning
discussed
her
it
involvement
extensively.
with my
It's like
nephew.
watching a train wreck.
He acknowledged
you can't
the
look
behavior,
away.
chuckling about
Susie's
the family
lack of
trait
anger
being
when Greg
Cad's,
disclosed
leaving
Alicia's
me in
affair with
silence.
Dominic
The
indicated
focus
she was
shifted
already
to
aware.
business.
Was it
He
a
emphasized
menage a
the
trois
importance
or
of
another
family
scenario?
and warned
Frankly,
that
a
if the
menage a
personal
trois
issues
involving
affected the
them would
business,
rival any
I
adult
might have to
movie.
leave the company.
How long had this been
It was
going
delivered
on?
like a strict
I
teacher
also noticed
scolding
the
a child.
exchanged looks between
I
Alicia
bit
and
my
Dominic
lip,
at the party,
noticing Olivia,
suggesting something
his
more.
eager secretary,
Maybe I'm
lingering by the
overanalyzing,
door,
but maybe
likely
not.
gathering
It was
information to
evident
share
Greg
with
was
her
neglecting
friends.
Alicia carnally,
As I
perhaps
turned
in
to
other
exit,
aspects
I
too.
couldn't help but
Was
wonder
this an
why a
excuse for
young
her
woman like
infidelity?
her would
I doubt
involve
it.
herself with an
Does it
older
explain why
man
she
like Jack
cheated?
Walker.
Certainly.
Passing
Women
by
whose
her,
advances are
I heard more
consistently
snickering,
rebuffed may be more
prompting me
tempted
to
to have
lower
an
my
affair,
head and walk away.
especially if the husband
As the
shows
door
interest
closed
in other
behind
women
me,
or watches
laughter
adult
erupted,
movies, which can be
clearly
seen as a
directed
form
at my
of betrayal.
expense.
By the way,
Returning to my
Alicia
office,
is
I
incredibly
realized my
attractive in
presence
real
there
life.
served
In
no
my
purpose.
opinion, any
I
man
had
would
funded
find
my
her
daughter's
irresistible.
education,
But
yet
this
now I
reinforces
was
the
essentially
saying that for
financing my
every
wife's
beautiful woman,
infidelities.
there's a
I
man
was a simple
tired of
guy who
having
enjoyed his
lovemaking with
gadgets,
her.
but could live
The
without
crucial question
extravagances.
is, what happens next?
The majority of my expenses
Currently, the
went
four
toward
of them are
Holly's
keeping
indulgences,
silent about the situation,
leaving me
but
questioning my happiness.
it's only a matter of time
It was
before
my
it comes
haven
out.
for creativity and
While
success.
this story is based on
I had
true
designed
events,
many
I
of the
didn't
parts
witness
being
everything
produced and
and had to
sold
take
here,
creative liberties,
and I was confident I
especially
could
with
find
Greg's inner
employment elsewhere.
thoughts.
They
I
saw me as
sympathize
weak,
with him
and they
and the
weren't
tough
wrong.
choices he faces.
I wasn't one to stir
Alicia
up trouble.
treated him
I was
unfairly,
content
regardless
being good
of her
old Alex,
reasons.
the
I'm
submissive
uncertain whether
engineer.
reconciliation or divorce
Glancing at
is
my
the best path.
screensaver of the family
Full
vacation,
disclosure, I'm somewhat
clicked on my
biased as
email.
Greg is a friend of mine.
To my surprise,
And about
there was a
Superman
message
and the
waiting
Hulk,
from a
I
woman
side with
named
Greg.
Jennifer Holmes
Superman's
from the Cambridge
powers like
Genealogy
thermal
Committee.
vision, flight, and super
Astonished
speed
by the quick
would
response,
easily defeat
I read
the
the
Hulk
message
unless
and
there's
was
kryptonite
amazed.
involved. But
Jennifer
that's
had
beside
read
the
my
point.
inquiry about
Mr.
my
Kirkson,
dad
they're
and
calling
had
you on line
connected
one.
with a woman claiming to
Who
be
is
his
it,
niece,
Betty?
Rachel
Mr. Ford
Murray,
is calling for you,
my
sir.
cousin.
Greg.
I promptly
Greg called
replied
me.
with my contact
I've been trying to reach
information,
him since the
hoping
Halloween
to
party
hear
incident.
from Rachel soon.
Until now, he, his
Leaving
wife,
work
and
brought
their
some
lovers
relief,
remain silent.
And upon
But
arriving
there
home,
have been so
Holly
many
greeted me
questions.
with a smile while
How
cooking
could something
dinner.
like this not happen?
Though I distanced
The public
myself
showdown
initially,
was so dramatic,
I returned
with
for the
elements
meal.
of lovemaking,
She
violence,
softly
and betrayal,
asked if we could discuss
and the
the
epic
previous night,
confrontation
to
between
which I
David and
responded that
Goliath,
it
except
seemed
this
there was
time,
little left to discuss,
Goliath had a glass
as she
jaw
had made
and
her
wrote a
stance
check
clear.
his drunk self
In
couldn't
response,
cash.
she almost
And
pleaded,
David cashed it out of
acknowledging
genuine
my qualities
hatred.
as a husband
Patch
and
him through,
requesting
Betty.
that I not deny her anything.
Sir, he seems a bit
I
upset.
questioned her betrayal
Well,
and
yes,
humiliation,
his wife did publicly
seeking an
humiliate
honest
him.
answer.
If he weren't upset, I'd be
Flustered,
concerned.
she shrugged,
Thank you,
unable
Betty.
to provide
I'll
a
handle it.
satisfactory response.
I awaited the click
Growing
indicating I
weary
was
of her
connected to
selfishness,
Greg.
I reflected
Hey,
on my
Greg,
efforts
it's
to make
Richard.
her happy.
I've been trying to reach
Despite
you
working
since I
long
couldn't
hours
bring
to meet
myself
our
to say these
financial
words
needs
out
and
loud.
desires, I
Ever
only
since I
received
found out about my
disrespect
wife
and
sleeping
mockery.
with that moron.
I even drove an
Yeah,
older
I
car
needed
so
some
she
time
could
to
have a newer
process
one.
everything.
She
Greg replied,
acknowledged having
his
needs
voice
that I
still
couldn't
carrying the
fulfill,
simmering
and
anger
presented
beneath
an
his
ultimatum,
composed tone.
accepted,
Even over the
as
phone,
she assumed I
his
would,
emotions were
or
palpable.
she would seek satisfaction with a
So,
younger
do you
man.
want to talk about it?
I
asked,
interjected,
hearing a chuckle from
mentioning
him on
Henry
the other
Walker's
end,
name,
tinged with
stating
bitterness.
that everyone knew
It
he
almost
was
sounded like a
involved with
snort.
her. She
Why would I
admitted
want to
the
talk to you,
involvement,
Richard? Huh, buddy?
bluntly revealing
So you
that
can
he was
broadcast it
essentially my
online?
boss
Does your little
and
story
would
need a
inherit the
sequel?
company.
Are people dying to
She
know what
outlined
happened
the
next to the
arrangement.
guy who couldn't
He
satisfy his
fulfilled her
wife?
needs in bed,
Can't your eager
and if I
fans
didn't
just wait to
comply
see how
and
my
accept,
damn life unfolds?
she would leave me.
Fine.
And he would
He had read
provide
my
everything
narrative.
else she
Now,
wanted.
not only was
and
he
needed.
furious at his
As
cheating
usual,
wife, her
I said
deceitful
nothing
friend,
and
and her
simply
caveman
rose
lover,
from my seat,
but he was also
retreating
angry
to
with
my
me.
study.
Fantastic.
Tears flowed,
Greg and I were
and
high
I
school
wished to be
buddies.
anywhere
He
but
played
here.
baseball. I played
As
football.
the phone rang, I
Despite
answered to
losing
hear an
touch after
unfamiliar
school,
voice
him
on
off
the
to
other end.
college, me
It was
joining the
Rachel.
Air Force.
We
We
conversed for about
reconnected
an
when I
hour,
returned to
and
our
when I hung
hometown
up,
years later.
everything else
He'd
faded
landed
from
a
my
management
mind,
job at
and I
Olive
wore
Garden.
a huge smile.
I teased him about wasting
Rachel
his
was
college
thrilled
degree,
that I
but
decided
he
to explore
persisted
my
and
father's
quickly
past
climbed the ranks,
and had much to
eventually
share.
becoming a
I
district
discovered
manager
that my
overseeing
mother had
multiple
indeed forced
restaurants,
my
earning
father
almost
out of
as
the
much
house,
as me.
deceiving
Now,
me
my
throughout
dear
my
friend was
childhood.
seething at me.
Sadly,
Not good,
he passed
Greg.
away in 1983
Usually, I'd
when I was
crack a
just
joke
11.
to diffuse tension,
He succumbed to
but in
drinks
this case,
poisoning,
it'd only
and
make
my
things
grandmother
worse.
always blamed my mother
I
for his
especially
behavior
liked the ending.
and mental
I began,
state.
but he cut me off.
Rachel informed
I
me
had
that
no
after
choice but
leaving
to
us,
shut up and
he
listen.
yearned to reconnect with me
You
but
know,
was
where I
prevented from
tucked my
doing
tail
so.
between my
We
legs and
arranged
ran
to
off
meet
like
over
a
the
coward.
weekend at her
His
home in
touch,
Cambridge.
his words
I was
dripped with
excited,
sarcasm,
knowing the break
leaving
would
me
be
feeling
beneficial.
like a terrible friend,
The remainder of the
utterly
week
defenseless.
dragged on.
Greg,
Things
where
at
are
home
you?
remained
We need to talk,
unchanged,
I
and at
urged.
work, I was
You know what's funny,
continually
Richard?
ridiculed behind
I've suddenly
my back.
become quite the
Henry
popular
and his
guy
friends
these
found
days.
it amusing to hang
More
a
so
pair
than
of
ever
underwear
before.
on my office door.
Seems like everyone wants a
I
chat
glanced
with
at
me.
Olivia,
Must be
but she
my
remained
charming
silent.
personality.
Enclosed
He
in the
quipped,
underwear was
his
a
voice
post-it
slurring
note that
slightly.
read, "Please
I could hear the
return to your
clinks of
wife."
liquid pouring into a
I was
glass.
shattered.
Greg,
I sat
are
at
you
my
drunk?
desk and wept
I asked,
once again
concerned.
that day.
No, Richard,
I wanted
was
to
drunk
blame
an hour
everyone
ago.
but myself.
Can't
I
tell you
couldn't
who
wait.
I am now.
When
He
Saturday
retorted
came, I
sarcastically.
informed Holly
All
that
right,
I was
I admit
visiting
it.
a
I
friend
was a
in
lousy
London,
friend.
and she seemed
But I'm here to
indifferent
make it
to my
right.
plans.
Where are
I
you, Greg?
suspected she
I
would be
said,
unfaithful,
hastily
so
grabbing my
being
coat
away
and keys,
made it
momentarily
easier for her.
forgetting my work obligations.
The journey to
Screw you,
Cambridge
Richard.
proved
Not
stressful,
telling you where I
and I
am.
arrived at
Don't
Rachel's
you dare
house an
show up
hour
at this
later
bar.
than expected.
I'll mess you up if you do.
Surprisingly,
He warned
she
before
welcomed
the
me
line
with the
went
warmest
dead.
hug I'd received in years.
But I didn't need him to tell
seemingly
me.
unfazed
I
by
knew
the
exactly
delay.
where he was.
I met her
There
husband
were
Greg
only a
and their
handful
children,
of bars
Grace
in
and
town
William,
worth going to,
after which we
and Greg
dove
had
into
his favorite at
discussions about
Moe's.
my father and
Partly because
newfound
he had a
family.
thing for the cute bartender
Rachel's
there.
warm and selfless
She was the type
demeanor
who
was
could flirt
evident
and seem
as she and
unattainable
Greg
at the same
conversed
time,
animatedly,
which only added
often
to her
finishing
allure.
each other's
Yet,
sentences,
despite her charm,
eager
she
to
wasn't
share
busy
our
when I
family
walked in.
story.
My
Joined
heart
by
sank
David and
seeing
Lucy
Greg
Price,
alone at the bar,
my
the
cousin and
sole
Rachel's
patron in
brother.
the place.
We bonded well,
Checking my watch, I
exchanging
realized it was
insights
just
about
past
my
noon.
father and family. After
Karen,
lunch,
the bartender,
we took a
greeted
short
me
trip,
with a wave,
affording
her
me
eyes
time to
showing
reflect.
concern.
Upon our
Does
return,
this handsome guy
David
belong
and
to
I
you?
discussed
She
our
teased,
jobs and
though
family
her smile
lives,
didn't quite reach
and
her
for some
eyes.
reason, I
I
found
nodded
myself
subtly,
confiding
gesturing
in my new
for her to
cousins.
give us some privacy
They
with a
offered
tilt of my head
unwavering
towards
support,
Greg. It
advising
was
me
all I
not to tolerate
managed
my
before
current
his fist
situation.
connected with my face,
Leaving Cambridge,
sending me
I
reeling
felt a
and seeing
renewed
stars.
perspective.
No
Having
wonder
endured
Dominic ended
numerous
up in bad
lies and
shape.
mistreatment,
Before I
the
knew
kindness
it,
and
I was on the
honesty
floor,
shown by my
wiping
newfound
blood from my
family
lip
gave me
as
hope.
Greg glared down at me.
I realized I needed
Eventually,
to
he shook
reclaim
his head
happiness,
and returned
not
to the
only
bar
for
stool.
myself, but
I picked
also for
myself
my
up,
daughters,
signaling to Karen to
friends,
keep
and this
quiet
new
as I
family.
made my way over to Greg before
Returning
he noticed
home at
me
8
again.
p.m., I
She
found
stood
Holly
before us,
getting ready to
eyes
go
wide
out.
as saucers.
I inquired about her
As she
plans,
started to
and
approach,
she
I
replied that she
silently
was going
waved
out
and
with her
nodded,
friends.
signaling that it was all
Catching
right.
her off guard,
In
I
response,
mentioned her
she nodded
second
back and
paramour,
resumed
Max.
clearing tables.
She pleaded for me to
Now
stop
that that's
bringing it
settled,
up,
can we talk?
seemingly
I
indifferent
asked,
to my feelings.
mustering up courage as
I
I sat
urged her
down
to
beside
stop
him.
and be my wife.
He took another sip of his
Dismissing
beer
my
and shook his
concerns,
head.
she insisted
Off
that
the
she
record,
was and
he quipped
always would be my
sarcastically.
wife.
I chuckled
She
inwardly.
asked me not to
At least
deny
his
her
sense of
pleasures,
humor was intact.
promising to make life easy for
Anyway,
me,
you
and
really
assured
hit a
she would
nerve
be
there,
back by
he
midnight.
said with disdain.
Ignoring my pleas,
How's your
she
relationship with
continued
your
to
mom?
threaten, attempting
You've met
to
her,
embrace
right?
me as I turned
Yeah.
away.
I still remember her
Unfazed,
frisking
she
me to
grabbed her
make sure
Prada
I didn't bring
handbag and
any
headed for the
forbidden
door.
stuff into her house.
Asserting my
We
position
laughed
as her
about
husband,
it later,
I
Greg
sternly
recounted,
asked her not
taking
to proceed
another
with her
sip before
plans.
meeting my gaze.
She paused,
For God's
looking
sake,
at me
Richard,
as if
it
questioning
was
my
bad enough
authority
going through that,
before
then
bursting into
reading
laughter.
about it and knowing all my
Mockingly,
friends knew it was
she
me.
asked what I would do,
Greg, I just
asserting
pinned it
that
down.
I would never have the
I never
courage
meant to
leave
embarrass
her,
you.
and predicting
besides,
that I would always
no one will
be
even
there
know
for
it's
her.
you. I tried to
Crestfallen,
reassure
I
both
dropped
him and
my head,
myself. Two cats,
realizing I had
Tarzan
been a
and a
fool for
pirate,
far too long,
plus the pirate who tossed
catering to her
Tarzan into the
selfishness
wall.
while
How
neglecting
many damn
my own
Halloween
needs.
parties do you think that's
It was time
happened
to
at?
end
Most
the
of them are
charade
the same.
and make plans for change.
Greg looked like he wanted to
I
punch
wasted
me
no
again.
time in taking action.
You find this funny?
Actually, I began
Okay,
while she was
humor
out
was
with Henry
definitely
or
not
Max,
the way to go.
maybe both together.
You're right, Greg.
That's likely
I
what
was
she
an
meant
idiot.
by indulging in
I
her
genuinely
desires and having it
apologize for
all.
putting you in that
My
spot.
thoughts fueled my anger,
Well, I'm not
causing
sorry
me
for
to lose
punching you,
focus.
he retorted.
I needed to find a
I
way
rubbed
to
my chin and
eradicate
chuckled.
any remaining
You
affection
still
I held
punch
for
like
her.
a girl. No
And I
wonder you always
believe I
got your
found a
backside kicked
solution.
in boxing.
I located the
That
box
seemed to break the
containing a
tension,
specific
and it
picture of
continued
my
to
mom and
thaw.
sisters.
I managed to
only one
coax
I
him away
had.
from Moe's and into
Though
my car.
skeptical,
Karen
I
shot
cut
me a
out a
grateful
picture of
look and
Holly's
hugged me
face
as we
and
left.
pasted it next to them.
Take care of him,
With
Richard.
no love left
He's
for
going
them,
through a lot,
adding
she
Holly's
said.
smirking face to the picture
My jaw was
might
throbbing
just
and
sever my
beginning to swell.
emotional ties.
But I got Greg out of there,
Placing it on my
and
study
that was
desk
what mattered
around
most.
12:45 a.m., I
The
completed
moment I
task.
secured him into my
I had
passenger
mostly
seat,
devised
he
my
drifted
short-term
off,
plans,
looking like
even
he
though
hadn't slept in
executing them
days.
might take a few weeks.
Instead of heading to his
Fortunately,
mom's, I
I
drove
had the
him to my
luxury
place.
of time,
Along
as
the
Holly
way,
wasn't
I called another
anticipating my
friend, John.
departure.
How's it
Though
going, Richie
uncertain
Rich?
and requiring assistance,
He greeted me
I had
cheerfully as he
convinced
answered
myself
the phone.
by then to follow through.
John was one of those guys
I
who
heard
still
someone
acted like he
entering
was in his
clumsily through the
20s.
door.
A great
and peeking
guy,
out the
though
window,
quite immature.
I witnessed Henry
I
Walker's
emphasize
departure.
very, since most guys
As I
are
heard
at
her
least a
ascending
little
the stairs,
immature.
I hastily
He's the one who
cleared
sparked
my
the whole
browsing
Hulk
history,
versus Superman
resolving
debate.
to use
Always the
incognito
life of the
mode
party.
henceforth.
However,
After she
none
retired
of the
to our
wives
bedroom,
really want
I
their
descended the
husbands to be
stairs to
under
brew
his
some
influence.
coffee.
He had a knack for
Reflecting
bringing
on my
out the
future away
teenage
from here,
troublemaker in his friends.
especially without my
But we
daughters,
all love him.
I found it tolerable.
John, I need your your hand?
Deciding to
I found
relocate
Greg at
closer to my
Moe's.
daughter's
Might
come
need some
Monday
help
morning,
getting him into my
I
place
headed
and
to
settled
work
in
resolved
bed.
not to
He's out
exert
cold.
myself any longer.
Damn.
Unperturbed
tracked
by the
him down.
snide remarks
Been
and
looking
laughter
for him all
directed
week.
at me,
After
I
what that
arranged a
idiot did
bank
to him,
meeting for
it's a
1
miracle he
p.m.,
didn't do something
utilizing the
drastic.
time before to review my
John
finances.
parked his Mustang behind my
Though a
Tahoe
gamble,
in my driveway,
if successful
and together
and
we
with the
tackled
right
the task
support,
of moving
I'd
200
emerge
pounds of dead
relatively
weight onto the
unscathed.
couch in my
The meeting
basement.
proceeded as
Not
planned,
an easy feat.
allowing me to close my
After
savings
chatting for a
account
bit,
and
he
remove
headed
my
out with the
name from our
promise
joint
that I'd
account.
keep him updated.
With a tidy
Being
sum in
home
hand,
early meant I
shut
had the
down
house
the
all
savings
to
account
myself,
for cash.
which was a rarity.
En route back to
So
the
rare,
office,
in fact, that I found
stopped
myself
at
at
a
a
PC
loss
World,
for what to do.
purchasing 2
Didn't
digital
want to
voice
step out in
recorders,
case Greg
a
woke up
500
disoriented.
GB USB
So I fired up the
3.0
George
tough
Foreman
drive
grill for
and a
steak
new
and baked some
PC hard
potatoes.
drive.
Then I
Upon
flipped through
returning,
my cable
I
sports
commenced
package,
accessing the
hoping to
company's
catch a good
private
game
customer
or at least
files,
some
a
interesting
task
sports
that
talk.
took me an hour to
Settled
crack
on a
Jack's
documentary
password.
and dug into my meal.
Ironically,
It wasn't
his
long
wife's
before my
name
wife, Nikki,
and his
walked in
6-digit
with our
birthday.
kids in tow.
With the
Hey,
necessary
what brings you home
access
so
secured,
early? She asked,
I downloaded
planting
all
a
the
kiss on
files
my
to the
cheek.
drive.
The
along
kids
with my
scampered
plans and
upstairs.
designs for the
Found
energy-efficient
Greg at
hydraulic
Moe's,
pump
sloshed
system,
as hell. Brought him
positioning
back
the
here and
company
laid
for
him out in the
continued
basement,
success.
I explained.
We
She looked
manufactured
hesitant.
pumps for air
Are you
conditioning
sure that's a
units,
good idea?
heavy
I don't want any
machinery,
drunken
and
antics in
even
front of
for the
kids.
dairy industry.
He'll be fine,
After
sweetheart.
clearing
I'll
my
keep an eye
PC
on
history,
him, I assured her,
including
feeling
all
her
plans
hand
and
caress
work,
my cheek,
I
sending
shut
a
it
shiver
down,
my spine.
swapped out the hard
That's when
drive
she
for a new
noticed the
one,
swelling.
packed everything in
Richard,
my bag,
what the
and
hell?
reinstalled Windows.
Did he do this?
The remainder
I'm
of the
all
day
right,
was
honey.
spent
Don't worry about
researching
it.
competitors on my
Rich,
phone
get
and
him out of
browsing
here.
engineering jobs
Honey,
in the South London
everything's
Surrey
under
area
control.
on Monster.
The
before
poor guy
calling
just
it a
found out
day.
his wife was cheating on
That
him a few
evening,
weeks back, and
following
it happened
another
so
quiet
publicly.
dinner, I
He's on
retired
edge.
to my study.
Plus, he's been
Discovering
dealing with
that
it
a
all
major
alone.
competitor,
I'm his
which
friend.
had struggled during the
He needed
financial
an outlet for his
downturn,
pent-up anger,
sought a
and if that
mechanical
meant taking
engineer
some
for
hits,
basic
I didn't
design
mind.
and shop floor management.
Besides, my
Intrigued
jaw's not
me.
as fragile as
While
Tarzan's.
not precisely what I
Maybe
desired,
he should consider
it was
a different
close.
costume next year.
Despite the
Nikki
£10,000
couldn't help but
lower
chuckle at
salary
that.
offer compared to
Watching
my current
Tarzan
one,
get his
I
backside
promptly
kicked by a
emailed
pirate
them my
was pretty
CV.
amusing. I
To
doubt
maintain
Jane would
appearances
approve.
with Holly, I
Yeah,
opted to sleep
Tarzan
in our marital
definitely
bed
got
that
what was
night.
coming to him.
However,
Dominic
I
should spend
ensured
less
to
time
feign
pumping
sleep
iron
when
and
she
more
entered.
time hitting the bag.
Her touch
Nikki
made
quipped.
me feel nauseous,
Or at least learn
but
to
oddly,
dodge, she
it
added.
pleased me to
We
react
shared
this
a
way.
laugh once her giggles
I was growing
subsided.
repulsed by her.
One thing
which
I've
would
always
aid me
admired
in the
about
long
Nikki
run.
is her personality
The next
and
day,
sense of humor.
a surprised
It's
Robert
one of the reasons
Williams
why
from
I
Sutton
can't stay angry
Hydraulics
with her for
called,
too long.
expressing disbelief
I headed
at my
downstairs to
potential
check on
move
Greg.
from Walker
His
Engineering
thunderous
to his
snoring
smaller
assured
firm.
me he was still very
Although
much
he
alive,
nearly offered me the
albeit
job
functionally
immediately,
comatose.
I requested an
I
interview
slipped a
the
pillow under
following
his
day,
head when he
which
let out a
agreed
sound
to.
that could wake the dead.
Another crucial piece
His
had
drink's
fallen
breath
into
could have
place,
knocked out a bull.
and things were progressing rapidly.
What the heck, Greg?
With ample
I
time
muttered,
on
the
hand,
stench
I
clinging to
began
me.
researching
I
flats
needed
in
to
the
step
area,
away.
eventually
A
finding
few hours
one just
later,
15
a zombie-like
minutes from my
version of my
daughter's
friend
and
emerged
5
from
minutes
the
from work.
abyss.
I
His
scheduled a
bloodshot
viewing
eyes
for the
screamed
day after
exhaustion
the
and
interview
distress
with
as he
Robert
shuffled
Williams.
around my kitchen.
Subsequently,
Nicky
I
shot me a
informed
silent
Jack about
warning that
needing to
spoke
visit my
volumes.
daughters in Kingston
Keep him in
to
line
sign
or he's
some
out.
papers the next day,
I approached
to
him in the
which he
kitchen.
casually agreed.
How you feeling, buddy?
That night, I
Feels
phoned
like
my
my wife
longtime
cheated
friend
on
Toby
me,
Brown,
humiliated me
arranging
in
to
front of
meet
the
him
whole
and his wife
neighborhood,
Sarah
then
the
ran me
following
over with a
evening
truck.
after my interview.
At least your
and
memory's
flat
intact.
viewing.
2 out of 3 ain't
Toby
bad.
and Sarah,
His eyes
aware
narrowed.
that I had something
My
on my
memory's
mind,
fine. I remember
eagerly
your damn
awaited
story
my
too.
explanation.
Remember how you socked me in the
Before
face for
meeting
it?
them,
I
I
rubbed
spoke
my
to my
tender
daughters
jaw.
about the situation,
That part seems
receiving
fuzzy.
their supportive and
You might need
understanding
to repeat
responses.
just to be sure it's done.
At the gathering with
There was
Toby
no real
and Sarah,
venom in his words.
I disclosed
Despite
the
his
details
talk
of
of
the
wanting to
initial
punch me
phase of my
again.
plans.
I knew he wouldn't.
Their surprise at my
I've
decision
said it
to
before,
fight back
but I'm
outweighed
really
any
sorry
shock
about
over
that
Holly's
story, Greg.
infidelity, a
I
common
didn't think it
occurrence
would
in their
reach as
view.
many people as it did.
Sarah inquired
and I
about my
certainly didn't
decision
think
to
you'd
leave
find out
Holly,
about it.
offering me
I was
another
wrong.
cup of tea.
People
I
actually
recounted
read
the
it.
revelations from
I
the
even got a
meeting with my
message from
cousins,
this guy I know
including
who
my
heard about the
father's
party from
expulsion
someone,
from the house by my
and then
mother
read your
and my
story
sisters,
online.
siding
Who's
with her.
this guy?
I
You don't know
noted
him.
that my daughters
He's this
supported me
loudmouth
this
named
time.
Harry from Virginia.
Toby
I
expressed
chuckled.
concern,
Harry
questioning
Inva,
if
huh?
the
Heard
discovery
of him?
at the meeting
Nice
had
guy
spurred
once you
me to
get past
stand
his
up for
attitude.
myself.
By the way,
I
he's on
clarified
my
that it was
side and
during a
thinks you're an
visit to
idiot
my
too,
father's
Greg
grave
said, grinning.
that I noticed
Yeah,
something
well,
on the stone.
I'm sure he felt
which
that way
shocked
before
me
reading the
and
story I
prompted
wrote
my
about
decision
you.
to leave.
I replied.
They both
Greg
asked
nodded and chuckled.
simultaneously
I gave
about
him
what
a
I
friendly
had seen
pat on
on
the
the
back,
memorial
which he
stone.
didn't seem to mind,
I
confirming
shared
we
that
were
it
okay.
featured a rose image with the words
why'd
"in
you have to
loving
paint
memory,"
me as a wimp? Did I
followed by
really
my
just bolt
father's
like
birth
that?
date and age at
Wimp?
passing.
Greg,
Coincidentally,
you took the guy
my
down in
current
one
age.
punch. I was half
Toby and
expecting you
Sarah
to bite his
slightly
ear off.
recoiled,
If you boxed
indicating
like
their
that in college,
understanding.
you'd have been a
I
champ.
explained that I
No one
faced a
sees you
choice
as
when
weak.
confronted with
Screw
moments
you.
that could lead to
It's
drinks,
a skill
loving
I've
or
still
worse,
got.
as my
Idiot.
grandmother
He
believed.
smirked and shook
I
his head.
decided not to
I really
emulate
handed
my
him his
father,
rear, didn't
and
I?
instead
Pride
chose
and
to fight
laughter
back.
blended in his voice.
I continued,
Hell yeah.
revealing that I wouldn't
Bet your
sacrifice
sweet rear you
myself
couldn't
trying
pull
to be
that
the
off.
perfect
He
husband any
teased,
longer,
nudging me.
enduring
Nah,
misuse and ridicule.
Might take me 2 hits.
I confessed to my
quipped back,
friends,
unable to stifle
feeling
a chuckle.
vulnerable about how
It was
low
good
I
to
had
see
sunk.
Greg.
Sarah offered
So,
help
what went
and
down
shared
after
her
I
plan to
split?
protect
Kept kept looking over
and
my
get back at
shoulder,
Holly.
thinking I was headed
I
to the
smiled
slammer.
and nodded,
Well,
appreciating
Greg,
Sarah's toughness.
after you bailed from the
despite previous
Halloween party,
suspicions of her affair.
Alicia let out this
Explaining
wail
my
like she was
financial
facing a
strategy,
firing
I
squad
shared that
and
in
crumpled to the
2008,
floor.
I established
She
a
sobbed
separate
loudly
savings
like a
account,
broken
depositing
Catwoman.
all my bonuses
Nikki
and
rushed to
extra
her
cash.
aid, helping her up,
Securing a
leading her
mortgage
to the
required
couch.
only my name,
Susie, the other
making it
Catwoman,
easier
came
for
down
me
the
to
stairs
apply
with her
alone.
disgraced Tarzan,
I outlined
holding his
Toby's
head as she
role in
guided
transferring
him.
ownership
Alicia
of my
caught
house
sight of
to a
them
new
and
company
flew
he
into
would
a
create
rage.
to
You
settle
idiot!
the mortgage,
What did you tell Greg?
transferring the
You
deeds through
ruined
the
my
land
life, you
registry.
idiot!
Toby voiced
Tarzan,
skepticism
already
about
battered
the
by
plan,
the pirate, now
but I
dodged
assured him
Catwoman's
that
claws,
Holly wouldn't have
while
the means
Catwoman
to
Hash
contest
2
it.
tried to intervene.
I pointed
Alicia,
out that her
stop it!
religious
Cut it
parents,
out!
upon
Susie
discovering
yelled,
her
defending her
infidelity,
husband.
would
Tarzan being
prioritize
saved
their
by a woman
principles
from a
over
woman
supporting
only
her.
stoked his fire.
They agreed,
Can this
and
idiot
even offered
embarrass
to
the
help
Jungle
cover
Man
the
any
mortgage,
further?
allowing
You
me
should
to
have said
delay
something,
payment.
right? You idiot.
On my way home,
Couldn't take
I
no for
visited
an
the
answer.
local Land Rover
What's wrong with you?
dealership where I
Jungle
negotiated
Man
to trade
regarded
Holly's
Alicia's
car
fury
for the
with
latest
detachment.
model.
It was clear he hadn't
We
grasped
terminated the
everything yet.
payment plan for the Range
The
Rover
knockout
Sport
must
she
have
had,
sobered him up.
benefiting
He
the
knew he'd
dealership
caused
from
today's
reselling
pain.
it.
Alicia,
I
I'm
assured
sorry.
the dealer
I
that
was
I would
drunk,
return
he
for my
said.
own upgrade,
She stopped attacking
knowing
and
he
collapsed
could
to the
recoup
floor
the
again.
cost of Holly's car
What do I
by
do now,
selling it as
Susie?
practically
What do I do
brand
now?
new.
Back
I
to Richard's
apologized
kitchen.
for any inconvenience,
After that, they
but
had to haul
explained that the
Dominic to
prospect
the ER.
of selling me an
Turns out
expensive
he had a
new Range
concussion.
Rover
He
more
wanted
than
to press
compensated.
charges, but Susie and
Upon
Alicia
leaving,
talked him out
I
of it.
picked up a
Alicia
2016
pleaded with
brochure,
him not to.
not for
She knew
myself,
if you got
but for
arrested,
Holly.
there'd be little hope
Upon
of your
arriving
return.
home, she sat
Greg
in the
chuckled and
lounge,
shook his
nursing
head.
a coffee
In any
and
case,
looking
there's
pale.
little hope left for
I
this.
removed my jacket
I sighed,
and tossed my
nodding
bag onto
sadly.
the floor, preparing to enact the
Greg,
second
what
part
happened
of the
after you
plan.
split?
I
All we heard
expressed
was
my
the
love for
rubber
Holly
hitting the
and my
road and the
desire for
roar
her
of
to
your
have the
engine.
best.
I wanted
I
to chase
declared
after
that I
you,
would trade in
but
her
my
car
Tahoe was packed
and
with
buy
other
her a new
cars.
2017
I
model,
feared you might crash.
pointing to it in
you
the
haven't
brochure.
responded to any of our calls.
Expressing her enthusiasm,
Yeah, well,
she
I needed to
exclaimed
get away
that
and
she
think,
loved
you
the
know?
new car,
I couldn't wrap
unaware
my head
of my
around it.
plan.
All our friends
She
are looking
acknowledged
at
my
me,
ability to
judging
make
me.
her feel
I
better,
needed space.
mentioning the only hiccup
So you
being
headed
that
to your
they
mom's
already
place.
had a buyer for my
It
car.
must have been tough going back
She
there.
proposed taking it to the
Yeah,
dealership
well,
by
life throws
Friday
you curveballs
afternoon,
sometimes.
leaving work
The only way
early
to deal
for the
with it is
task.
to do something out of
She
the ordinary.
suggested I use her car
Greg,
for the weekend to
October
visit my
31st,
lovers,
party crap.
causing her to recoil
Damn
at the
it.
final remark.
Damn it, these
A
damn
look
women.
of shock and
I
confusion
sped
crossing her
recklessly
face.
along side streets leading out of
Inquiring
town.
about what was wrong,
Honestly, I
I
had no
prompted
clue
her
where
to
I was
address
going.
the situation.
Stop signs, speed
She
limits,
mentioned
traffic
nothing
lights,
specific,
none of it mattered.
but asked if I
I
was
drove
still
like I
upset
was
about
the
our
only one on
arrangement.
the road that mattered.
I clarified
What's that
it was
sound?
not our arrangement,
I glanced at the
but rather
passenger
hers,
seat, recognizing Alicia's
emphasizing that
ringtone.
I had no
Her
say in
lovely
it.
face illuminated
I
my
questioned
Android
if I had
screen.
no choice
She
but to
smiled
accept
at
it,
me, a loving
hoping for a
smile
response.
captured in time.
She simply
I remember
nodded,
taking this photo.
appearing as if she
I
had
was so
asserted her
happy.
dominance, and
So
I
full
had
of love and
surrendered.
adoration.
Despite the circumstances,
Damn lie.
she
I
declared
fought
that
the
she
urge
loved
to
me,
chuck my phone out the
expressing
window.
genuine concern.
Her picture on the screen
I
lied
said
to
nothing
me.
in
If
reply
I answered,
and walked off
the voice
into
on
the
the other
kitchen.
end would lie to me.
My
The
phone
cheerful
began to
melody
ring,
announcing
so
her
I headed
call
out
was
to
a
the
lie.
back garden to
Lies.
take the call.
She slept with
Toby
Dominic.
confirmed the
Maybe
money
they
had
even
been
kissed,
transferred.
passionately,
I was good to
excitedly.
go the next day.
Damn it, I bet
Without
the idiot
delay,
loved it.
I entered
Another
the bank
man's wife
and
in
was
his
shown
bed.
into the
Who
mortgage
did he think he
specialist's
was?
office.
I was the
An
one
hour
by her
later,
side when she
the
was
mortgage
sick,
was paid off,
in the
and
delivery
all my
room with
remaining
her
accounts
twice,
were closed.
promising
I
to
walked
love
a
her in
few doors
sickness and
down
health.
and opened a new account
I
with
devoted
another
my
bank.
life to her.
I was
The
content,
persistent
knowing I wouldn't
ringtone
have to
tormented
pay
me
anything
with its
again
falsehoods.
unless Holly
He
pursued
paused for a
legal
moment,
action
then
and
continued.
took me to court.
I shut it off and
My
pulled
smile
out the battery.
faded.
Silence.
The next day,
No more
I
lies.
contacted the land registry
I drove
and
aimlessly
completed
around
the
the city,
appropriate
my
online
mind on
application.
autopilot, protecting itself
With all
from
the details
overload.
of Toby and
The
Sarah's
images
new
of
company,
tonight's events
within
and worse,
10 minutes of
the
applying,
scenarios
I received a
imagined between
confirmation
my wife
email
and that
stating it would
idiot
take
in the
3 to
jungle
5 days to
were
complete.
overwhelming my mind.
Once done, I would
overclocking
simply
my
hand over
processor.
the deeds to
Reality
Toby,
hit me
and he
when I
could
gazed
register
up
the
and
property
found
to
myself
his
parked
company.
in front of my
That
parents'
same
garage.
day, I knocked on
I
Jack's
couldn't recall
door.
driving here.
Olivia was with him,
It seemed
as
my
usual.
subconscious guided
Fridays
me back
were
to my
typically when
childhood
he had his
abode.
way with her, and
Cutting
I
the
believe I
engine, I
interrupted
entered.
their closeness
Every
activities.
child holds a key
She
to their
left us
parents'
alone.
home,
Placing
even if
my
they
resignation
vowed
on
never
his
to
desk,
return.
he looked up at me with that
Well, perhaps
stupid
not every
smirk on his
child,
face.
but in my
He
case, it
inquired
was
about
late.
the document in my hands.
The living room,
I replied that
unchanged
it was
for
my
decades,
resignation
greeted me in
and
darkness.
expressed the belief that
The
leaving
sofa,
immediately
coffee
would be
table,
best,
lamp,
considering
all
the situation
fixtures
with our
frozen in
families.
time, exactly as I
I
remembered
suggested
them.
that he might not want
Strangely,
me
I
around
found
for too
solace
long.
in this
He
familiarity.
appeared dumbstruck by the
That
news.
night, in one
I
drunken
boldly
conversation
requested
with
that
a
my
Neanderthal,
P45 be
everything
ready by
changed
Monday,
in an instant.
and emphasized
I've always
not
been
mentioning
skeptical
my
of
departure
stories
to
where
anyone
worlds
Holly
shift
didn't
in a
know.
blink,
He
except
pleaded
in
pathetically,
tragedy. This
insisting
night
that they
turned me
needed
into a
me.
believer.
I
My
countered
entire
by saying they
understanding of life
apparently
was
needed his
upended
nephew
by a
more.
single conversation.
I informed him that I would
Returning to my
return on
childhood
Monday
home
to
brought a
collect the
sense of
last of my
stability
things.
after an earthquake shatters
Discreetly,
buildings and
I
fractures the
pretended to
ground.
drop a pin from
In
my
such
pocket,
times, people
using
crave
the
calmness.
opportunity to remove a
Stability
digital
was what
recorder
I
from my
needed now.
sock.
For the moment, I
Constructing
was
a
safe
pin
at
for
home.
it, I hit
Who's
record
there?
and
My mom's
discreetly
voice
placed
rang
it
out,
under the seat
envisioning her
and
wielding
into
a
the
baseball
wooden frame
bat,
as I
ready
stood
to
back
fend
up.
off intruders.
Concluding the
It's me, Ma.
conversation, I mentioned
Gregory?
having things to do
Yes.
and left his office.
Suddenly the light flicked
As
on,
a parting
momentarily
shot,
blinding me.
I told him
I
not to come
squinted to shield
crawling
my
back
eyes.
when he's broke,
Why on earth are you
suggesting that
skulking
the
around
only
in the
thing
dark,
keeping his
trying to give me
cheating
a heart
wife with
attack?
him was his money.
Glad to see
I
you too,
smiled,
Mom.
knowing that it hit a nerve.
As my eyes adjusted,
Turning, I left his
I faced
office.
an elderly
An hour
lady,
later,
clad
I
in
drove
floral
home,
pajamas,
picked up
hair in
Holly's car
curlers.
and logbook, and
Well,
dropped
why are
off
you
her
here
car
at this
at
hour?
the dealership.
And what's with the idiotic
John Reeves
outfit?
kindly offered to drive
Straight
me
to
home,
the point.
and I
That's my
accepted
mother.
gratefully.
In that moment,
When
I
I got
realized
home
I
that
was
night,
still in most of
Holly
my
was
pirate
sitting
costume.
at the kitchen table
My
with
hat,
big red bags
parrot,
under
and
her
eye patch
eyes.
were long gone.
I knew she had been crying.
Now I just looked,
I asked her what happened.
well,
Reluctantly,
idiot.
she told me she had contracted
long
gonorrhea.
story, Ma.
I
Listen,
laughed.
I'll be staying here for a
Oh,
while.
Did I laugh?
The kids will leave tomorrow,
just
but
glared
I'll
at
be
me.
back.
He
I'll fill you
suggested
in,
taking
but
the
not in front of
medications to
them.
get back to normal.
Okay.
And the
I
tension
didn't ask
in
her
the
to
air
stay
was
with her.
palpable.
I simply informed
That
her of my
night,
intentions.
For the first time
This might
in
appear
months,
odd to most,
I slept
but it's
well.
normal for us.
The next morning,
My
I
family
slept
is in
in the
what
spare
you'd
room
call
and felt
affectionate.
refreshed.
My dad
The
is
good night's
straightforward,
sleep had
never
done
saying
wonders
more
for
than
me.
necessary and
I
expecting
entered
the
our
same
bedroom
in
and gently
return.
woke Holly,
Hugs are brief,
explaining that
I
I was
love
giving
you,
her
reserved
space
for
to
dire
rest
moments.
and recuperate.
My parents were a
Holly
perfect
expressed
match,
a belief
both reserved
that
in
I found her
affection.
disgusting,
How they
to which I
even
remained
conceived me
silent.
remains a puzzling
Tears
mystery.
started streaming down
They
her
were either
cheeks
destined
as
to
she
find each
admitted to
other
messing
or
up big
destined to
time.
suffer alone.
She professed her love for me
All right,
and
Gregory,
expressed a
you know where
desire for me
everything
to
is.
get better.
I'm going back to bed.
Initially,
My
I felt
mom's
sympathy
frail
for
figure
her,
vanished
but
around
it
the
vanished
corner,
quicker than
her
expected.
voice trailing.
That
And
surprised me.
lock up.
It dawned on
The
me
next
then
morning, I checked
that
my
I had
phone,
lost
finding
all
29
affection for the
missed
woman
calls.
I'd been married to for
15
21
from
years.
Alicia, some from
Could love
Richard,
truly
and a
fade
few
away
from
so
others at the
swiftly?
party. I
Apparently
ignored
so,
them,
because
knowing
I
they'd
was
likely
done,
consist
and
of
her
people
situation
eager for
did nothing
gossip
to sway
about the
me.
affair.
I left the
After a
room.
restless night,
Without saying a
pain,
word, I got
anger,
into my
and
car
confusion
and
lingered.
drove off contentedly.
I also wondered about
That
the
night,
police.
I stayed with Toby
What
and
happened to
Sarah,
Dominic
who
after
hosted
I
a
left?
dinner party with
Did
many
he go to the
friends and
hospital,
colleagues
press
present.
charges?
When I
Would
returned
I end up
home
in
late
jail?
Sunday morning, I found
I
Holly
slipped
up
out of
doing
the house
chores.
before my mom
Walking
woke,
into the lounge,
leaving a note
she
explaining
rushed
my
towards
departure.
me and hugged me
If
when
Alicia
she saw
called,
me.
Mom
I
was
simply
instructed to
patted her on the
inform her
back.
I'd reach out when ready.
Excitedly, I
parked near
suggested
my favorite
arranging for
bar,
the new car
seeking
to
solace
arrive,
in strong
offering
drink
to
to numb
drop
the
her off in
pain.
town to meet her sister,
For the next couple of
who could
weeks, I
then
hid at my
drive her to
mom's,
the dealership.
only encountering
I
Alicia when
envisioned her
dropping off the
driving
kids or
back in the
fetching
new Range
belongings.
Rover, and she
Our
smiled,
interactions were strained,
approaching me
ending with
with
her
open
upset.
arms.
Before
Turning back
leaving,
to
I
the
overheard
kettle,
her talking
I
on the
pretended
phone,
not to notice
ears
her.
perking up as I listened.
Throughout the
If
day,
it had been the
Holly
creep, I would have
displayed
lost
excessive
it.
affection,
But it was
making
Susie,
me feel
her
uncomfortable.
half of the conversation
She
leaving me
persistently
unsure
tried
if it
to
was
kiss
better
or
or
hug me,
worse.
but I kept
I
finding
divided my free
excuses to
time
leave.
between my parents'
By
place and the
bedtime,
bar.
I noticed she had been
With
crying
Dad away
again.
on business, it was just
Wishing her
Mom
good
and me.
night, she
Oh,
inquired if
joy.
I would be sleeping
Deep
with her,
conversations
and
weren't her
expressed a
thing,
desire to cuddle
though she
up
listened
and hear
attentively and offered
reassurances.
support.
Feeling
Even if she
nothing,
didn't fully
I
grasp the
responded that it wouldn't
situation.
happen until she got the all
I'd
clear
never
from the
discuss
doctor.
adult films with her,
I
especially
firmly
after her
asserted that she
warnings in
made
my
her
younger
bed,
years
to
about
which she
blindness
retorted
and hairy
bitterly,
palms.
stating that
During
when
my
she got
stay,
better,
we
she
spoke
was
little.
sure she could find a
I
man
outlined
willing
why
to
I
be in
was
bed with
staying,
her,
and she
as she
listened,
had plenty of
but
lost
didn't
time
press
to
for
make up
details.
for. I
When she
chuckled
asked
to
what I'd do
myself.
next,
It
all I
took
could do
longer
was
than
shrug
expected,
and admit I
but
didn't
there
know.
it was, and the
You'll figure it
harshness
out,
was back.
was her encouraging
All the regrets
response.
from Friday night had
We didn't
vanished,
revisit the topic.
leaving behind 21
Oddly
years of
comforting, it
resentment.
spared me from endless
In the
retelling
past,
and
I
emotional
would have fallen
coddling.
for her
I
manipulations.
was free to grieve in my own
But
way,
this time,
taking
I
all my
ignored her
sick and
tears
personal
and headed
days I
for the
couldn't
spare
face
room.
anyone,
It
even
would
though
be my
no
last night
coworkers
in
were
my
at the
house,
party.
and it would be in the
Living
spare
in a
room.
small town,
I was
gossip
also
spread like
relieved
wildfire.
she said those things.
I wasn't just dealing
It
with
erased
infidelity.
any lingering
It was
doubts I
public
might have had.
humiliation.
As I
Poor
looked at my
Greg,
doctored
too
picture
busy
of
with
her and my
obscene
sisters,
films to
all
satisfy
I
his
felt was
wife.
hatred for her.
Eventually,
She
I
was
had
only
to shut
sweet
off my
when she
phone.
wanted something,
It kept ringing
and nasty
incessantly,
when she didn't get
faces
it.
pleading for answers.
I woke
Screw them
early
all.
Monday morning. Holly was
Whether
up
the
early
universe
too for
or
her
Dominic's
8:30
pride
hair
intervened, the cops
So I
never
drove her
came.
into town
It
as
was
planned.
intriguing to
I
observe my
drove
friend's
off,
behavior.
knowing it could be
They
the
sent
last time I
emails and
ever
even
saw her.
called, yet
I
none
feared it
visited
wouldn't
my
be,
parents' house.
but I was
I
determined to make
realized
it
that
so.
when people are
On
unsure
the
what
way,
to
I
say,
called the mobile
they
phone
often
company
avoid the
and
situation
terminated both
altogether.
our contracts.
They weren't neglectful
Pulling
friends,
over into a
just
lay-by,
unsure how
I
to
paid
help.
the penalty on
This
my card.
silence, both a
They
curse and a
informed me that the
blessing,
phones
left
would
me
remain
alone
in
with my
service
thoughts
until
constantly.
5 p.m.
To quiet the
Perfect.
disturbing images in
Next,
my
I
mind,
headed to
I
the
sought
office to
solace
pick up
in
my
drinks at the bar,
P45.
with Karen
I
becoming
stepped
both
into
my
the
deity
factory,
and
greeted
my
by a
salvation.
somber atmosphere.
The hardest part about
Word of
staying
my
with my
departure
mother was
seemed
being
to have
separated
spread,
from my children.
briefly eliciting
It was
looks of fear from
self-imposed
my
exile,
colleagues.
but it still
Unsure
stung.
of the reason
I
behind
knew
their
seeing
unease,
them meant
I made
facing
my way
Alicia,
down the corridor
akin to
toward my
reaching
office,
a warm bed
passing
across
by
a
the coffee
half-frozen
machine
lake.
where the
So
usual
I drank
group was
even more to
gathered.
numb the pain.
Uncertain
It
if
took
Max
Karen
and
showing
Henry
me a
were
story,
aware of their
caught
shared
cat
involvement
women
with
penned
my
by a
wife.
friend,
They
to break
grinned
the
at
cycle.
me,
It
exchanging
mirrored my
jokes
own
with
script,
others.
featuring
I
two
greeted them
Catwomen,
with false
a pirate,
cheer, saying
that
good
damn
morning.
Tarzan,
They asked
Superman,
about
and
my
Hulk.
wife, prompting
The
the
nerve.
usual laughter at the
Fuming,
recurring
I dialed
joke,
7
which
digits.
I failed
Good
to
morning,
find
Mr.
amusing.
Kirkson's office. This is
I
Betty. How
replied
can I
that
help
she
you
wasn't
today,
doing
Richard?
well,
And today
attributing it
at
to one of
Richard's
them
place.
giving her
So,
an
what's the plan
welcome
plan with
surprise.
Alicia? Divorce?
I left them in
Separation?
stunned
Give her a
silence,
thrashing?
And when
Greg
I glanced
chuckled
back,
sadly and
their
stared at
jaws
his
had
plate.
dropped,
Do
leading
I have
to a
to choose?
commotion
He
before
quipped,
I headed
lacking
upstairs.
enthusiasm. I
Approaching
saw the
Olivia,
agony etched on
she
his
offered a
face,
half
replaying
smile
Halloween's
and lowered
events
her
in his
head,
mind.
perhaps
Her words
indicating
echoing
that I
like a
was now
broken
earning
record.
some respect.
Greg, I've got to
Jack
ask.
appeared at the
You can
door
tell me to
before I
buzz
could
off
knock.
if it's too personal,
He asserted
but
that he
about
had
that
what I
adult
wanted,
film?
instructing
she
me
mean?
to take it and get out.
Greg blushed,
Perhaps
shifting
that respect
uncomfortably.
was merely my
So what?
imagination.
I watch them occasionally,
Entering his
not every
office,
day.
I
Are
sat
you
down,
implying she doesn't or
discreetly
you
slipping
don't?
a recorder
He
into my
retorted
pocket
defensively.
from under the chair.
Sure, I watch them,
I
but
knew he'd had
Alicia
his
said
usual
you were
Friday
viewing them instead
rendezvous
of
with
being
Olivia,
carnal with her.
and now
That's
I
true.
had it recorded.
Buzz off, Richard. It's
He
too
snapped,
personal.
inquiring
All
if
right,
I had
buddy,
another
fair
job
enough.
lined up.
But I just want to
Initially
understand what
ignoring
went
him,
wrong.
I relented
You two
and
seem so
replied
happy.
that I had nothing
I never
lined up.
suspected a thing.
A smirk played
He
across his
gazed
face,
down at his meal
likely
while his
assuming
fork
I would
traced
come
circles
crawling
on the
back.
plate.
I
She
inquired
just
about my
doesn't get
final
it,
month's
Rich.
pay and
What's
end-of-year
she not
bonus.
getting?
to which he
Greg
burst
let his
into
fork
laughter.
drop and ran his hands over
Olivia
his face,
entered with
taking
my
a deep breath.
P45,
It was a
and when
sigh
she
tinged
asked
with
what was
sadness,
amusing,
perhaps
Jack
mixed with
explained
guilt.
that I had requested
I
my
work
bonus
10 to
and
12
pay,
hours every day,
finding it rich.
sometimes even 5
Olivia
days a
chimed
week if
in,
I'm lucky.
laughing along.
When I get home, I'm
Deciding
exhausted.
to join in,
I'm stressed
I
out.
responded
I
with
deal with
laughter,
irate
causing
investors,
them to
clients,
pause and stare at
managers,
me
carnal
incredulously.
molestation claims,
Olivia
discrimination
questioned
claims,
why I
and
was
everything
laughing,
in between.
and I retorted,
It all falls on
asking
my
her
shoulders.
why she let the old
If
man
something
take
goes
advantage
wrong
of her
at the
every week.
restaurants, like some
My laughter
customer claiming to have
intensified,
spotted a
and they
rat and
froze,
demanding
with
free
Olivia's
food,
eyes widening
I'm the
as
one who
Jack
has to handle
flushed
it.
with rage.
He paused,
In response
gathering
to
himself
Jack's
to
anger,
continue.
he spat
I
out,
listened,
calling
waiting
me a
for him to
scoundrel,
spill it all
and
out.
instructing me to get out of his office and his
Alicia
company
requires a
before
lot
he
of
had the
foreplay.
boys
I mean,
drag me
a
out
lot.
by my ears.
I have to spend 30 minutes
Chuckling,
just on
I
foreplay.
exited,
Then,
collecting
when
the
she's
last
ready,
of my
we can start
belongings
having
from my
physical
office.
engaging.
Still
She likes
laughing
to
to
change
myself,
positions
I
frequently.
arrived home,
On top of
unloaded
that,
the back
she wants me to
seats,
talk dirty to
opened
her
the trunk,
throughout.
and
I
entered
love
the
my
house.
wife, I really do.
Surveying the rooms,
And when I have the
I
energy,
pondered
it's
what to take
fantastic.
with me.
I know guys who complain
Retrieving
that
a
their
few
wives are
Romero
frigid,
Brito artworks,
unimaginative,
I wrapped
or
them
just
in
want to
plastic
get it over
found in the
with.
garage
Alicia
and loaded
is none
them
of
into my
those.
car. I
But
went
I
around
don't
the
have the
house
stamina to
collecting
do this every
various
night,
items,
especially
then
after
emptied
dealing
my
with all the
wardrobe
crap I
upstairs.
faced during the day.
I secured
He
all my
paused,
important
glancing
paperwork,
away.
including
Rich,
the girl's
sometimes
birth
I just feel better
certificates
being alone.
and my wedding
I hate to
certificate
admit it. I
from
mean,
the
every
safe.
man dreams of a woman like
Utilizing
Alicia,
a loft ladder,
a passionate
I
woman who
retrieved
genuinely
my old
enjoys
belongings,
lovemaking.
including
I know
my
I'm lucky
degree
to have her,
and family photos.
but I noticed his eyes
in the
starting to
master
cloud
bedroom,
over.
I
It's
gathered
tough to
all the
reconcile
jewelry
the
I had
pain of
gifted
marriage
Holly over the years,
when you realize the part you
totaling over
played in
10,000
your own
pounds in
troubles.
value. I
I
also
do so
took all
much
the
for her,
handbags,
for the girls.
shoes, and
I worked my
expensive coats I
backside
had
off to give them
purchased.
everything I didn't
In fact,
have as a
the
kid.
entire wardrobe
My dad
was
was
my
very
acquisition,
thrifty.
so I
He
claimed
only
it all.
bought what I needed.
Given my
I
meticulous
want
record
more for
keeping
my
for
girls.
insurance purposes,
And then there's
it would
my
prove
wife,
beneficial
and
when
I
selling
enjoy
everything.
spending time with them.
After finishing
They're my
packing,
whole world.
I
But
realized
sometimes,
I needed TV,
I just
so
wish
I
I
grabbed
didn't
that
have to do
along with
something
my
for
movie
someone
collection
else.
and the
When I
Blu-ray
come
player.
home after dealing with
By
all
now,
the crap at
my
work,
car was too full.
sometimes
I decided
just
to
want,
ditch all of Holly's
I don't
clothes
always want to be
and
a
a few
dad
other
or a husband or a
unnecessary
boss.
items, including some of my
I
old
think
clothes.
I missed a bit of that.
Anumi would need a new
How long
wardrobe,
has it been since
and
you
the
two were
girls would
carnal?
gladly help me out.
I mean, before the party.
I gathered the
He shook
best
his head.
pictures of me and the girls
I don't know, Rich.
and
I
packed
really
them
don't
in
know.
the car.
I didn't even
No
realize
real
so
rush,
much time had
since
passed.
Holly wouldn't be back
I
until
nodded,
after 2
a
p.m.
flicker of understanding
Took a moment for a
dawning
cup
on
of
me.
tea.
Then I
A
saw anger
must-have,
flash in
I
his
believe
eyes.
it's in the Magna Carta.
But that
Called
doesn't
the
give her the
TV
right to
company
do what she
and
did.
canceled the satellite phone
Though,
and
Richard,
internet.
I
Also
didn't
contacted
humiliate her in
British
front of
Gas
everyone.
and Southern Water
I
to
didn't cheat
cancel
on her.
utilities.
She should
It
have
would
come
take
to
a
me
few
with our
days,
issues.
but I didn't
Why
care.
didn't she come to me?
Returned to the
I had to
bedroom
take a
and sat
risk
on the
with my
bed
next remark.
when I noticed
It was
something
crucial
that
to
sparked
convey
an
my
idea,
point to him without
one that
seeming like I
scared
was taking
even
her
me.
side.
Holly's
Maybe for
wedding
the same
dress
reason you
sat
never
at the top
explained
of
to
the
her why you
wardrobe
watch adult
in a dusty
films.
old box.
Communication
She loved
can be
it,
tough,
probably more
especially
than
if
me.
you don't realize you
Took
need
it
to say
down
something in the
and
first
found
place.
our wedding album
How do you
among the
communicate your
box of
unhappiness
photographs
to your
on the
spouse?
bed.
Simply
Grabbed the
put,
duvet
you
cover,
say, "I'm
gathered
unhappy."
everything, and headed to
Touche.
the garden. Dumped
Things were
everything into a
escalating
pile,
too much.
including Holly's clothes
Usually
and
at moments
belongings
like
I
this,
couldn't
I'd crack
sell.
a joke, so I
Left her
switched
underwear
gears.
untouched.
So,
Didn't want any
Greg,
reminders.
about my wall,
Closed up
he
the
caught
car
on
and checked
that I
the
was
time.
teasing him and
Only
grinned, shaking his
1:45
head.
p.m.
Call
Called
it
up
even
Robert
for this
Williams
one.
and told him I'd
Idiot.
drop off my
I thought the punch in
P45
the
later
face
with
had
the
evened
night
things
shift,
out.
eager
Not
to start
quite.
fresh tomorrow.
I chuckled.
He seemed pleased,
Seeing Greg
and I
as he
hoped I
was before
brightened his
Halloween
day.
was refreshing.
At 2 p.m.,
even if it was
I
fleeting.
sat waiting for the call.
Fair enough.
Found some paint thinners
That's when
in
I
the
noticed
garage
Nikki standing
and
in the
poured it
doorway
all
with a
over the
peculiar
wedding dress in the
expression.
garden.
Her eyes
Just
urged
as I
me
was
to see
about
her
to
right
light
away.
the fire,
I
my
left
phone
Greg to
rang.
his meal and approached
I
her.
answered calmly,
"What's wrong,
and
dear?"
Holly's voice
She
came
glanced
through the
around
phone,
nervously and drew me
demanding
closer
to
to
know
whisper.
what was going on.
Somehow Alicia found
I
out Greg's
replied
here.
sarcastically,
She's on her way.
asking her what
Damn,
she
John.
meant.
Probably called her
Insisting
to
that I
vent or
shouldn't
something
play
stupid.
dumb, she continued to
Unknowingly
question
gave
me.
away Greg's
I
location.
asked her to
You
calm
need to
down
intercept that
and
woman at the
inquired
door.
about what was happening.
Nikki.
There was
Nikki
silence,
raised her hands and shook her
and
head.
I could hear her heavy breathing.
Rich, I'm not
and
getting
what
involved
sounded
in
like
this
her
mess.
sister in the
Greg
background.
needs to face this. this? He's
She
been
mentioned
avoiding her for 2
that she had
weeks.
been told I didn't
I
get
felt
her a
frustration
new car,
rising
but
toward
sold
my
hers
wife.
instead.
She cheated on him.
Teasingly,
Haven't you
I
forgotten
mentioned that I might have forgotten
No,
to mention
I
that.
haven't. I've
She
got a
started
damn
to
hole in
sound
the wall
panicked,
as a reminder.
asking what was going
I
on.
glanced at Greg, who seemed
Remaining
oblivious to
calm
the
despite
impending
my racing
showdown.
heart, I
What do you
informed
want
her
me
that
to do,
from now
Nikki?
on, if she
Her
wanted
expression
a car,
softened with
she could
resolve
pay
when
for
she
it
saw my
herself.
determination to
She
help my
yelled in
friend.
response,
He has to
expressing
handle this
confusion
himself,
and
babe.
frustration.
You can be there
I
for him as a
reiterated
friend,
that
help him
she
through
heard
it,
me
but he
just
can't run
fine
from
and
it.
added that I needed to tidy
She
up the
patted my
kitchen.
chest and
She
left.
questioned if it
I
was some
turned to
kind of
prepare
sick
Greg for
joke,
what was coming.
to which I said nothing.
Greg, I
She
heard your
declared that we
conversation.
would talk
You
about
can't
it when she
exactly
got
whisper.
home,
She's on her way.
expressing her
He rubbed his chin and
dissatisfaction with
winced.
being
Then his
pranked.
expression shifted
I
to
remained
determination.
silent.
Fine,
I hung up
he
the
said,
phone
pushing
amidst
away
her
from the
continued
table.
screams
Turning
of my
to me, he
name.
met my gaze.
Stepping
I'm
outside,
ready to face this,
I struck a
he
match
declared.
and ignited the pyre.
With that, he rose
Our
and
history
walked out
went
of
up
my
in
back door.
flames as I walked away.
Greg, a beautiful
Retrieving
sunset.
our marriage certificate
Soft
from my
hues
pocket,
painted the pale
I
sky,
tore it into shreds
serene
and
and
left it
almost
on the kitchen
calming.
table. alongside a
honey?
lone photograph of us
The
at
serenity
Disneyland,
shattered. I
capturing
didn't respond
happier
to the
times.
alarmed voice signaling the
I
arrival
wondered
of
if
my
she
unfaithful
reminisced
wife.
fondly about
I
those
didn't even
moments
turn
too.
to look at her. My eyes
Sliding
remained
into my
fixed on the
car,
sky above.
I drove off.
Alicia
Approaching
interpreted
the end
my
of the
lack of
street,
reaction
I
as an
glimpsed
invitation,
Holly and Jennifer
which in
in
some
my rearview
sense she
mirror,
wasn't
rushing
entirely
into
wrong
the
about.
house without a glance
She settled
upward.
beside me on Richard's back
smile,
porch,
I powered
drawing
off
her
my
knees
phone
to her
and drove
chest
on.
as if seeking
By 4
protection.
p.m., I reached Sutton.
I've been
Deciding
searching
I had
everywhere
time,
for you, honey.
I visited a
she
nearby
said,
phone shop
starting
to
off
set
in
up
the
a
worst
new mobile
possible way.
contract.
I've been in
Additionally,
the same place
I
all
caught
night,
the admin
I
team at
muttered,
work to handle
deliberately
my
echoing the
P45
exact words
and met
I'd
Freya,
used when I
my
found
new
her
secretary,
cozying up to
who,
Dominic in
unlike
Richard's
Olivia,
kitchen a couple of
exuded
weeks ago.
professionalism
She seemed a bit
despite her
puzzled
youth.
by my response.
Returning to my empty
Greg, we
flat,
need to
I
talk,
brewed a cup of
she
tea
said,
with a
and I
kettle
nodded
borrowed
in
from
agreement.
home. I unpacked
From my
and ordered
side
pizza
vision,
for
I could
dinner.
sense her anguish.
Checking my old phone,
I avoided looking
found it
directly at her
disconnected.
face, but it seemed like a
smirk
grim
crossed
sight.
my lips,
Swollen eyes,
knowing Holly
flushed
was now
cheeks, a
phoneless
somber
too,
expression.
affording
At
the
least that's
girls
how her
some
voice
respite
conveyed
before
it.
my
I
inevitable
love you, honey.
contact.
It's a lie.
Setting up my
I cut her
sleeping
off.
bag in the
Greg,
lounge, I
stop
awaited
it.
dinner.
Alicia, just stop
Furniture
it.
would arrive
You
over
can't
the
claim
weekend,
to love me and then
but for
embarrass
now,
me the way you
I
did,
relished the
airing
distance
our
from
issues
Holly.
in public like that.
Switching on my
I would
laptop,
never do that to
I
you.
accessed recordings
What are you
from Jack
talking about,
Walker's
Greg?
office,
You did
revealing
this to
his
me,
affair with
she
Olivia.
said, her voice
After
rising with
uploading
anger.
the evidence,
You stormed
I
down
made
the stairs
copies
like a
on
madman
USB
in front of
sticks,
everyone.
addressing them to
You
Jack's
asked Susie
wife
if she
Margaret
knew I was sleeping
and
with her
Olivia's
husband,
boyfriend
right
Peter.
in front of everyone's eyes.
I planned to
If
mail
you
them
wanted
the
to
next
talk
day.
privately,
Lastly,
you could have pulled me
I
aside
phoned my
and yelled
daughter
at me in the
Sophie
car.
to update her,
But no,
cautioning
you were the
against
first one to
informing
air
her
out my
mother of my
business like that.
whereabouts, which she hadn't done
In a
yet,
way,
given
she had a
Holly's
point.
lack of
I
communication
didn't see it that
needs.
way at the time.
Over the
I was
following
blinded
week,
by
I
rage.
furnished my flat.
Okay,
and
Alicia,
began
I'll give you
diverting
that,
customers
but I
from
didn't
Walker
initiate
Engineering to
this.
Sutton.
Your damn boyfriend
Despite a few
confronted me,
loyal to
telling me
Jack,
all about
most
your
preferred our
indiscretions in front of
offerings,
other people.
leading to Walker's
I handled
loss.
it the best I could.
I anticipated
was
Jack's
furious,
discovery of the
rightfully
reason
so.
for his business
Could
decline,
I have handled it
but
differently?
remained indifferent.
I paused to rein
With
in my
utilities
emotions.
cut off at my
but I didn't
former
cheat
home,
with anyone.
Holly would
I
realize
continued.
my absence
You didn't
as
have
she
someone
struggled
come up
with
to you and
bills.
rub my betrayal in
Toby
your
initiated
face.
the home sale
I
process,
looked her squarely
backed
in the
by
eyes.
Sarah's
The
enthusiasm,
anger
and
drained
by
from her
week's end,
expression,
signs
replaced by
adorned the
remorse and
property.
guilt.
During
I know,
this
Greg,
time,
she said
Ava
softly.
contacted me,
I simply
revealing
shook my
Holly's
head.
relocation
Do you really
to her
think so,
parents'
Alicia?
home,
Do you
where
really?
disapproval
Her
lingered
eyes
over her
sparked again.
infidelity.
Maybe you didn't
Holly
physically
seethed
betray me,
with
Greg,
rage
but you
toward
weren't
me,
present
which
for
oddly
me.
gratified
Remember
me,
last night when
though
I
I knew
wanted
the saga
closeness?
wasn't over.
And you?
By the
I shook
weekend,
my head.
Toby
It was
and
on my
Sarah
birthday.
hosted another
I treated
successful
myself
dinner
to some
party,
beautiful
offering
lingerie
a
from
moment of
Victoria's
respite
Secret.
from my escape plan.
It was so hot. I
Sunday brought
indulged in a
promising
fragrant
news.
bubble bath, getting
After just a
excited
week on
thinking
the
about the
market,
night ahead.
I received two
I lathered my
serious
body
offers
with eucalyptus
for
scented lotion,
£550,000,
spent an hour doing my hair
one
and
of
makeup.
which I
Do you recall
accepted
that night?
immediately.
I did remember that
Preparing
night.
for the
That was the day I had to
I
fire
arranged
Frank.
ISAs
He was my
for the
close
girls
friend,
and investments,
one of my assistant
ensuring
managers
Toby
back
was
when I worked at
compensated
Olive Garden.
and securing a
We'd
portion
become
in
good
cash
friends
for
over
my
the years.
safety.
When the allegations
Protecting myself
surfaced, I
remained
stood
a
up for him
priority.
vehemently.
As the week
I was
progressed,
certain he wouldn't do something
Toby's
so
news
reckless.
that the sale
But
could
the
move
girl had
swiftly
text messages.
filled me with
Damn
delight.
text messages.
I promptly
When they
reached out
emerged,
to a removal
I was
company,
livid.
tasking
I was the
them
one
with
who
clearing
promoted
out
him.
my former
I was the
home.
one who vouched for him.
Meanwhile,
and I
the
was the
girls
one who had to
contacted
deal
their
with it.
mother,
Or
who
they
responded
deal with me.
heightened anger
So,
and threats.
needless to say,
Assuring
I
the
wasn't
girls
in the
that
best
the
mood
turmoil
that
would
evening.
soon end,
But I didn't
offered
forget
them
her
solace.
birthday. I made
On
a
Tuesday
reservation
morning,
at her favorite
during a
restaurant, all
conversation
set
with
for
a
a
new
nice
client
dinner.
who had
But
recently
all
met
Alicia
with Jack
wanted
Walker
that night was
to
dessert.
discuss a possible contract
We went out to
renewal.
dinner for your birthday.
I learned of
and then we
Walker
made love that
Engineering's
night.
dire situation.
Alicia,
The client
I
revealed
recalled this.
that due to
She
a
shook her head
significant loss
sadly.
of projects,
We had
the
love
company
making,
had
Greg.
to lay off 50%
You couldn't even
of its
enjoy it.
staff.
Then when I tried to
Additionally,
cuddle with you,
he
you pushed
informed
me
of
away,
Mrs.
saying you
Walker's
were
decision
tired.
to divorce Jack
That's why
over
I gave
his
you
infidelity.
space.
Despite
Her
this
voice caught and
revelation,
she swallowed
I felt
hard.
no sympathy.
I knew she
My
wasn't
mind
finished yet,
preoccupied with
so I waited for
calculating
her to
commission
continue.
checks.
Then I woke
While
up in the middle
remained
of the
unaware
night.
of Olivia
I saw
and
you
her
at your
boyfriend's
computer.
fate,
I saw you
knew he
watching
had
adult
received my
films and
gift.
pleasuring yourself.
Whether Mrs. Walker
The
had
words
received
came
hers
out
or not,
forcefully,
the
and then she
reason
broke
behind their
down.
impending
Her
divorce
body trembled
was
as she tried to
undoubtedly
cry cry silently, but to
I
no
pondered
avail.
what Mrs. Walker's
sat
friends
beside
and
her
family would think of
speechless.
her affair with an older
Slowly,
man.
I began
In
to grasp her
recognition of my
perspective.
efforts, I
Hearing
was
her side of
rewarded with
things
a brand
opened
new
my eyes.
Land Rover Discovery
Until tonight, she was
HSE.
just a deceitful cheater.
Although I had contemplated
Now,
treating
I wasn't so
myself
sure who
beforehand,
she really was.
Robert and the executives
I get it,
were
Alicia,
so
all right?
pleased with my
I
performance
took you for
and the
granted.
company's trajectory
But do you truly
that
grasp
they
this,
bestowed
Greg?
upon me the
Do
car
you comprehend how
along with a
deeply this
substantial
devastated
commission,
me? Can
surpassing
you fathom the
£30,000.
pain of realizing that, at your
Gazing out
best,
of
you're
my
not
office
enough to
window at my
satisfy
new
your
car,
husband?
I was
doubt
taken
you do.
aback when a familiar
After
Ford
that,
Focus
I made a
pulled
pact with
into the
myself to
parking
stop
lot.
initiating
I
lovemaking
discovered the
with
car
you.
belonged to
I
Diane,
wanted you to
Holly's
desire me,
mother.
but you never did.
Anticipating an inevitable
So
confrontation,
that's why
I
you
braced
ended up with
myself as
Dominic.
my office phone
Did
rang.
he make you
My
feel like a
secretary,
woman?
Freya, informed me that
sniffled
there was
beside
a
me and
woman
wiped her
claiming
nose
to
on
be
her
my
sleeve.
wife in the reception.
Yes, Greg, he
I
and
instructed
Susie
her
did.
to tell the woman
Damn
that
it.
I was in a meeting and that
Susie
I would
and
be
I
down
got drunk
in an
once
hour.
in high school.
3 hours
Something
later,
happened that
I
night.
glanced out the
In the
window
morning,
to
we were
find her still
mortified.
waiting.
We chalked
With
it
a
up to the
sigh, I
drinks and
decided to
pretended it
leave for
never
the night,
occurred.
prepared to
Well,
confront
over a
her
decade
if
later, I
necessary,
found
or
myself at her
simply drive
doorstep in
past if she
tears.
didn't spot me.
A few weeks
Exiting
afterward,
through a side
feeling
door,
like the most
I headed
inadequate
toward my
woman
car.
alive, I went to her
As
place.
I was about to get in,
I was
I
so
heard
low,
tires screech,
so shattered.
and before I knew it,
I told her
she
I
had
needed to
blocked
get
me
drunk,
in with
and we
her
did.
car.
The feeling of
Stepping out,
inadequacy
she
started to
stormed
fade,
toward me with
but it
fury
never
evident
truly went
in her
away.
disheveled appearance.
And how did you end up in
Clearly
bed with her and
distressed
Glass
clad
Joe?
in worn-out clothes
Dominic
that
came
appeared
home
to be
from
her
work and found
sister's.
us completely
Her
wasted.
unkempt hair added to
Susie
her disarray.
confided in him about my
"You
issues.
damn idiot!"
He began telling me
she
how
screamed,
beautiful I was, how he
attempting to slap
desired
me,
me.
but missing her mark.
Susie backed him up,
Fueled by
mentioning our
rage,
past in
she
high
demanded
school.
retribution.
He got excited and
Urging
suggested
her
we
to calm
kiss.
down,
We were
I
so
invited
drunk
her to
that we
sit in the car
obliged.
with me.
It all
Surprised by
began
the
with
sight
a
of the new
playful
car,
kiss.
she
But before
expressed
I
her
knew it,
financial
things
struggles
had escalated
and pleaded
beyond
for my
control.
return. I informed
many
her that
times
since I
did you
couldn't
sleep with
fulfill
them?
her needs
She
and
turned to
didn't
gaze
match
at
up
the
to her
now
younger
darkened
lovers,
sky above
I
us
felt
and whispered,
redundant in her life.
"Twice."
She then pleaded for me to come home,
It stung.
expressing
The
a
drunken
desire to
episode
move
was bad
past the
enough.
situation.
I could eventually
and
move
forgiving
past
me.
it, but knowing she'd
I
been with
couldn't
them
believe
again
my
was a
ears
whole other blow.
and asked if she was kidding.
So, at
She
the party in
affirmed
the
that she
kitchen,
forgave me
what
for
were you
wrecking
and
her
Dominic
things
discussing?
and her life.
Her eyes
Questioning
flashed
her
with
forgiveness,
anger and a hint
I
of guilt
pointed
as
out
she
the
recalled
open
it.
cheating,
He was
disrespect,
drunk,
and her
complimenting
nerve
my
to
hot
claim
costume and
forgiveness.
suggesting
I
we go to
stated
their
firmly
place for
that I
some
would
fun.
never be with her
I was
again,
worried someone might
and
overhear,
coldly
so I tried to
suggested
hush
she
him.
go be with one of her lovers.
I admitted my mistake,
She
saying the
mentioned
three
that
of
her
us
friends
couldn't
treated her
continue.
differently now
Then
that
he
they
got a
were
bit
separated,
forceful, pressing
and their
against me.
husbands questioned their fidelity.
That's when you walked over?
While acknowledging some
Yes.
responsibility for
I
her
gathered my
misfortunes,
lingerie in a
I
pile.
still
Wasn't that what
sympathized
you
with her.
said? She
She
nibbled her
admitted to
lip,
facing
shaking her
consequences
head.
for her actions.
I was
having
furious,
squandered
Greg.
a good life due
Seeing
to greed
Dominic
and disrespect.
pestering me like that just reminded me how
Despite
little
this,
you valued
I knew
me.
I had to move
Were you
forward.
planning on heading to
She
his place
pleaded
later
me
for
to
some
come back
fun
into
since
her
he
life,
appreciated
claiming
you?
to have nothing
She shook
left.
her head, locking
She
eyes with
inquired
me.
about her share of
No.
the house and mentioned
I was
her
hoping
need
you'd
for a
finally take
divorce.
the initiative.
I pointed out
I
that
chose
she
the
had never
Catwoman
once
outfit
said she
because
loved
I knew
me,
you loved
stating
Michelle
that she
Pfeiffer in
just
Batman
needed me,
Returns.
but I didn't
You once
need her.
told me how you fell
I
for her
disclosed
because of
that I
that
had
suit.
defaulted on the
I
mortgage
saw
and
the way
lost
you
the
looked
house,
at me in it.
admitting
I
to
saw
lying.
desire in your
Her
eyes.
reaction was
Mine.
one of shock.
I almost
and I
skipped the
understood
party
the purpose of
altogether
her
to get
visit.
what I'd been yearning for.
Declaring my
I wish I
desire
had.
for a divorce,
I hoped when we got
she
home
pleaded
you'd take
desperately,
me. And then
claiming
Dominic
to love
happened.
me.
She spat
After
his name
over
out.
20 years
Well,
together,
none of this would have
she
happened
pleaded,
if you hadn't slept with
acknowledging
him.
a mistake.
Why didn't you
and
just
claiming
talk to me,
severe
Alicia?
punishment.
She sadly shook
I
her head again,
emphasized that
sniffing.
it was a huge,
I don't know, Greg.
unforgivable mistake.
I wish I did.
Stating firmly
Lord knows why I
that I
didn't.
would never return to her.
Well, I guess there's
She
enough blame
screamed
to
and
go
begged,
around.
filling
She
the
turned
car
to
with
me,
her
hopeful.
cries.
So
Offering
what
a
now?
proposition, I
Greg,
suggested
I don't
want
wanna
to
lose you. I
and
love you
offered
so much.
30,000
I'd
pounds
do
in cash
anything
if
for
she
us to
agreed.
get through this.
Her demeanor changed,
My head
and she
swirled.
became resolute.
Can we get
She
through
yelled,
this? Can I forgive
threatening
her,
to fight
knowing
me
I
in
played a
court for
part in our
everything,
downfall?
asserting
Leave
that
the
I
past
didn't lose
behind.
the house and was too
I don't
smart
know,
for
Alicia.
that.
So much has
Acknowledging
happened.
her correctness,
It'll take a lot
I
for us to
found
start
myself
healing
on
from
the
this.
defensive.
A
I
glimmer of
started by
hope
stating
sparked within her.
firmly that
She
she
wiped her
wouldn't
tears,
get a
gripping
penny
my
from
hand.
me.
Please,
She squared
honey,
up to
I'll
me,
do anything.
and I explained
Just give me a
that
chance
I would
to show
fight
you
her
how
for
much I love you.
everything and more.
I met her gaze,
I asserted
sensing
that
hope.
she had no money,
I began to
and I
feel
would
it too.
move my assets
It'd
around
take
to make
time,
it
but
difficult
maybe
for
we
her to
could
track
mend
them
each other.
down.
If we
I
both fought
warned
hard
her that
enough,
by the
there might
time
be a
her lawyer
chance.
found anything,
All right,
the
Alicia,
bill
but
would
it'll
wipe
take
out
several
any
steps.
gain.
First, we need
I gave her
counseling.
a choice to
It's
take the money
necessary.
offered or face the
Obviously,
consequences
we have a
of
lot to
legal
work through.
battle.
We
never
need to
breaking
learn how
eye
to
contact.
communicate with each other.
She exclaimed
She
angrily,
kissed my cheek,
expressing
embracing my
love
neck.
and accusing me of
Yes,
mistreatment.
darling, whatever
She
you say.
continued, stating
Secondly,
that thanks to
you
her,
need to cut ties
our
with
girls
Susie.
would thrive,
That's when I
contrasting
saw the
their
light
future
fade from
virtues
her eyes,
with her
feeling it
perceived
dim in my
shortcomings.
heart.
I told her
Well,
to take
what did
the
you
money
say?
and get out of my life.
I said you
and
need
she
to
spat
end your
back,
friendship with
agreeing
Susie.
to take the money and
Greg,
proceed
why are you
with the
asking me
divorce.
to do this?
I
I
responded that
reclined
I
in
would
my
arrange
chair,
it, and
staring
she
at her in
exited my
disbelief.
car, slamming
Seriously,
the door shut.
Alicia? You
Moments
cheated on me
later,
with
she
her
sped away
and her
from the car
husband.
park.
What do you
The
expect me to
following
do?
day,
Just
I
trust that it
initiated
won't happen
divorce
again?
proceedings,
Every
citing
time you're with
infidelity
her
as
or
the
talk to
grounds.
her, do you
A
realize
week
what
later,
goes through my
I
mind.
arranged a meeting
How
with
can I
Holly
heal
at
if
the
this
girls'
wound keeps
apartment.
getting salt rubbed in it?
Despite the completed
She
sale of
recoiled
my
as if I'd
house,
struck her,
I postponed
tears welling up
investing
in her
until the
eyes.
papers were signed.
We locked eyes in silence
Maintaining
as seconds
civility in
stretched
front of the
into
girls
eternity.
proved challenging.
You want me to
I
choose
handed
between
Holly
my
the
best
cash,
friend and my
she
husband?
proceeded to sign the papers.
I can't do
After
it, Greg.
bidding
Please
farewell
don't
to the
make
girls and wishing Holly luck,
me. Words couldn't
I
convey
prepared
the
to
agony
leave.
that coursed through me
Holly
at that
suddenly
moment.
burst into tears.
Strangely, it was
though
worse
I
than
sensed
catching
it
her
might
in
have
the
been
act.
more for the girls'
This
benefit.
time, there was no
Sophie
anger
and
to
Ava
mask it.
exchanged
My heart
knowing
constricted
glances.
painfully,
Ava
crushed by
mentioned
the weight of
seeing
the
me next
realization
weekend,
that it was too much to
referring to the
bear.
Coldplay concert
The fact
they
that
were
she couldn't
excited
choose
about.
me over her best
I
friend
returned to the
was
room,
devastating.
where Holly
A
continued to
catastrophe
sob,
of
unnoticed
unfathomable
by the others.
proportions.
Suddenly,
The woman I
I
loved
realized
most
what
didn't
Ava
love me the
meant
same
about
way.
the concert.
I wasn't her one and
Sophie
only love.
inquired about our
I shared her
plans,
heart with another.
and I mentioned checking
Dominic's
with
irrelevant
Amy
now. I
and
don't
letting
care
them know
about him.
during the week
This is
before
bigger,
departing.
Alicia.
Ignoring
But
Holly
she couldn't
shouting
sever
as
her
I
ties
left,
with Susie.
I closed the door
The
behind
bond
me.
was too strong, rivaling her love for me. She couldn't let it go, even if it meant sacrificing our marriage. Sadly, we divorced less than a year later. Alicia fought tooth and nail to prevent it, even stooping to humiliating herself. I never imagined I'd see her pride crumble like that. She begged me at my workplace not to leave her, embarrassing herself in front of everyone. I begged too. It was a heart-wrenching plea that left everyone uncomfortable. Even I secretly hoped I'd give her another chance. But I couldn't bear the thought of her being around him as long as she refused to relinquish her friendship. In essence, I was right. No spouse should have to share. A year later, the wounds still run deep. There are no winners here. We do our best for the kids, avoiding putting each other down in their presence. Yet, many nights I've been a shoulder for Greg to cry on. But there was one silver lining this Halloween. He brought a date to my party. She wasn't dressed as Catwoman. Maybe she's just a rebound, not his next great love. But finding someone new is still progress. Real life isn't about neatly packaged endings. It's a messy, gradual healing process. Alicia, Dominic, and Susie didn't show up at the party. They cut off contact with the rest of us. Susie remained staunchly by Alicia's side, accusing Greg of unfairness and trying to force an impossible choice. In my view, the choice wasn't impossible. Alicia simply didn't want to be married as much as a loving wife should. She claimed she'd do anything, but actions speak louder than words. She might have been willing to play the part of a love-making slave or a doting housewife, but when it came to sacrificing something personally significant, our marriage wasn't worth it to her. In the end, he's better off without her.